Call the meeting to order. Have everybody rise for the Lord's Prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Ramirez.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Donahue. Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Mayor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
Okay, first item on the agenda is we're going to have an award ceremony. The people who are responsible could not make it this evening, but I did want to alert the council that the Environmental Protection Agency and the New England Interstate Water Pollution Control Commission came to the mayor's reception room earlier this week and presented the city with this award regarding the EPA's Youth in the Environment program. This is something that's gone on in the city for a number of years. We had 5 city residents have summer jobs at the wastewater treatment plant through a grant funded through the Department of Environmental Protection at the federal level. It was a very successful program. We've had people go through this program in the past. It's to get them interested in careers in the environment. They've gone on, some to UMass Lowell, received chemical engineering degrees, gone on to work at large companies in small places like DuPont, have employed some of the graduates. So it's a successful program. I just wanted the council to be aware that the city received an award for it and congratulate the 5 Lowell residents who completed a good summer program and a good summer job.
Okay, I think they deserve a round of applause.
Next item is the minutes of the August 8th meeting. Is there a motion to approve by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Broderick? All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Any opposed? The minutes from the August 8th meeting are approved. Okay. There is, under unfinished business, we had a Keyspan had a request last meeting for a gas main in Eddy Street. There has subsequently been a request to withdraw that petition. Motion to accept by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Armin Mercia. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The petition is withdrawn. Okay, the first item on the manager's portion of the agenda are communication related to requests for out-of-state travel. There were, I think, in the packet originally 5 requests for out-of-state travel. There has subsequently been 1 additional request. Just bear with me. I'll try and also from the police department. Is there a request to take these together or separately?
Yes.
All 5.
All 5 or the new one too?
And the new
Okay.
one. 6.
Motion to approve the 6 items by Councilor Armin Mercia, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Roll call, please.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue. Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Mr. Manager, I skipped over the very first item on your agenda, which is responses to council motions. There is a report from the manager in the packet. I don't know if you wanted to add anything about any of those.
Mr. Mayor, what I intended to do here was to outline the responses that I've made to the various motions that were voted at the last meeting. I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding any of those responses. I've also passed on in this packet a report that I had sent on to the councilors on the city's finances. Included within that was some correspondence that the city had received from the Department of Revenue, and I had received copies of in a meeting with the Department of Revenue. Essentially, the purpose of that, it was to communicate to the council the fact that the Department of Revenue has told us that they would not be approving our tax rate or certifying our free cash until such time as we completed an audit, our annual audit for FY06. I've since met with our auditors and instructed them to complete that work by November so that we can move forward with our normal time frame of having the tax rate approved in December, so we can get those third quarter tax bills out, which is essential to us if we're able to continue operations without any short-term borrowing. I've also, I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding that. I've also sent on to the councilors, as requested, the credit report by Moody's Investors Service on our last bond offering in March. We are going to be meeting with Moody's next week for a new bond issue that will be going out in September. I've also communicated with the council on a report from the solicitor on the prayer recommendation, as had been requested, a report on the gang incident and anti-gang summit. We had, as you know, we had an incident this past week that was gang-related. And I've also communicated with the council, I believe it's on the agenda, regarding police restructuring and proposed promotions. And it's necessary to change the ordinance to allow that restructuring to take place.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager. Councilor Ramirez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, with respect to some of the information you gave us in this packet, a lot of the stuff is over my head when it comes to finances, so if you could bear with me. What, in common terms, is the basis for this January 3rd and January 15th letter from the Department of Revenue to former Manager Cox?
Well, I think that in discussing, it's somewhat unusual. The Department of Revenue, though, has concerns regarding the city's finances and the drawdown of reserves. And I think there were also some questions regarding the manner in which the tax rate was set last year. They wanted to have clarification of the city's financial condition very clearly spelled out prior to approving the tax rate. They wanted to know that the numbers had been checked with the auditor, and the balance sheet information was in line with the generally accepted accounting standards. So there are a number of communities that they've put this requirement on, about a dozen, I believe, around the Commonwealth, and it just is an extra step this year. The more traditional way that it would occur, as has been the case here in the city, is that the year would be closed out. They would approve or certify the free cash number. The city council would then meet, utilize any free cash or vote free cash any way that was deemed appropriate. A tax rate would be set, which they would then review. They would certify that, and some time later, the annual audit would be complete. Generally, the audits take about 6 months from start to finish, not because it necessarily takes 180 days, but working it into the auditor's schedule, and generally takes about that time. In this particular case, they've indicated that they want that completed before they get that, they actually do that.
So now, on the January 3rd, at the very bottom, it talks about the towns in acute fiscal issues, but it does talk about the requesting that they meet with the field account representatives. Is that of the Department of Revenue?
Yes, it is.
And do you know if we complied with that?
Back in January, I'm not sure if we did. I do know that the field representatives were out here just last week, and I met with
And
Ms.
were
Kennedy.
they out here last week because we never contacted them before?
I don't know if they were out here before, but I don't think that, I think it was just more standard procedure that they would come out at the close of the fiscal year and start to go over preliminary information.
And Do you know if the city complied with the request back in January and in March that the city's independent certified public accountants perform that audit?
I believe that I can tell you that the work product, and I actually sent on a copy of correspondence from Powers and Sullivan that they sent to the former city manager in July. So it's clear that they were already on board in some fashion.
But it wasn't completed?
But it was not completed. They can't start that work fully. They can do preliminary field work in June or July, but they really can't start that work until the books are closed out, and that should occur within the next week to 2 weeks.
And is it common practice in mid-sized cities such as Lowell for the books to be this tardy?
I wouldn't say that the books are tardy. Generally, they are closed out in the August timeframe. So we're on track for this year. I'm not sure when they were closed out last year, but they're on track for this fiscal year.
Thank you.
What is a little tardy this year was the FY05 audit. I believe a copy has been provided to each of the councilors tonight. That just came in last week. I would say that is tardy. That is probably about 3 to 4 months later than I would have anticipated, and probably 6 months later than I would like.
So what is the effect that these letters and the somewhat compliance of them is having on the city today for the budget?
It's really not having anything directly impacting this year's budget or the FY07 budget. We do have, I believe there's going to be a subcommittee report tonight on the FY07 budget. I met prior to this meeting with the finance subcommittee. We have issues for FY07, but these particular issues don't affect us directly now. What they would affect is if we are not able to complete that audit, we would be in a position where we would be having the tax rate certified after January 1st, which means that, or let's put it this way, we wouldn't be able to send out the third quarter tax bill for January 1st as we would like, thereby requiring us to borrow money because we wouldn't have any revenue coming in.
Okay. Mr. Manager, is there a way that we can fix or improve on the way that information such as these correspondences from the chief taxing authority of the state can be sent to the council when they come in? Or I noticed that they're addressed to the manager, but they don't appear to be CC'd to the auditor, which is also supposed to be one of our employees and somebody that's keeping an eye on the books. And one could make an argument that if the auditor doesn't get a copy, then he, may or may not be in the dark of it. And I'm just wondering if you have any recommendations so that we can, in the future, put some of these in place.
I guess I don't have a specific recommendation. I would certainly, my practice would be that if something like this were to come in, I would certainly meet with the finance team, meaning the auditor, the CFO, the treasurer, the assessor, to go over the information. And I would pass that on to the council as well. We could certainly request to the Department of Revenue that they CC the auditor, but I think internally it's just a practice that we have to improve upon.
Okay. I'm going to wait and yield the rest of my time after the subcommittee report. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Thank you. Councilor Armin Mercia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I would like to take a positive approach to all this information we receive from the manager. First of all, in the past, it's been pretty common that the tax rate and the free cash was certified without all of the necessary documents the DOR requests and expects. And that's happened last year. What's good about this notification is that it's telling the city right now that it will not happen again. What they're saying is that don't come in December or whatever time you come in without all of the information that we're requesting. Otherwise, we won't certify the tax rate and we won't approve any action on the free cash. So I look at this as a positive approach to how we're going to be handling the tax rate and the free cash situation. What they're saying early on is, look, if you come in without all of the information we want as it relates to the audit, and we have it sufficiently advanced enough that the manager is going to see to it that those things are done by making sure the audit is done and making sure that all of the requirements the DOR wants is satisfied before we request them to approve and certify our tax rate. So there's a positive aspect to this. I don't consider that letter or those letters as a critical situation that puts the city of Lowell in a bad light. I look at those letters as telling us once and for all that this is the way they wanted to have it done, and if we don't, then we're going to have a problem in December. I think the manager's on the right path. I think pushing the auditors to make sure they do the job they're supposed to, both the independent audit and our auditor, will go a long way to making sure that in December we'll have all our ducks in order and we won't be, we won't be caught in the middle of a fiscal crisis. So I look at this, at the positives end of it. I've dealt with state bureaucracy before. Sometimes you don't understand why they want the things they want, but they do want it, and if they have a say on your budget, if they have a say on your grants, you've got to comply. And so I just look at this as a positive aspect that will assure the city, if the manager moves forward as he's going to, that we won't run into a problem in December. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand Councilor Mercy is taking a positive, wanting to make positive of it, and I think we can moving forward. I think, however, that we can't lose sight of the fact that the letters were received in January, or dated January 3rd, March 15th, as well as a bond report March 15th, and that if they had been forthcoming to the council, that I don't know if anybody sitting here would have voted on the budget that we voted on, which now we find out tonight is $3 million less in free cash, which we budgeted for. So I think there is harm done from the letters not being given to us. And I think that it shows the total lack of communication that we had with the former manager. And I think that it bears to light the fact that if we're not given information or misinformation with free cash, whatever the numbers may be, that we're voting, since these three letters, we voted on $4.5 million bonding for a garage, and we voted on a $290 million budget. You know, I'm astounded. I assume, Mr. Manager, you've asked your employees if they've seen the letter, and I assume that no one has seen the letter other than yourself when DOR came up. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Mr. Auditor, have you seen this letter, the two letters from DOR?
No, I haven't.
Okay. It just, I don't know, I guess I'm kind of at a loss for words. It blows my mind that we were told, don't spend it. We're on essentially a watch list with one of 12 cities, municipalities out of 351, I think it is. And we go ahead and do the same old, and now, and I have a difference of opinion with Councilor Mercier that there is harm done. We have a $3.5 million free cash figure in our budget that we don't have. It's off by $3 million. If we had taken it out like the DOR advised the city, then we wouldn't have this problem. We wouldn't have the extra money we would have thought we would, but I'd rather not have extra money than now have to come out of pocket, and the taxpayers are going to have to pay this. It's going to fall on the taxpayers because we weren't given these letters. Now, I'm not trying to say that former manager Cox should have been down in the basement printing money to make up the other shortfalls, but this $3 million is going to be a big tax increase on top of the 1.8. And again, I'm not saying I wouldn't have voted to bond the money for the garage, but I would have liked to have all the information and not be voting on these things in a vacuum. And I think in the bond report that we got from your office, Mr. Manager, it indicates in it that the city, and I assume it was the city meeting with the bond company back before this particular bond issue, in the report it indicates that the city expects to appropriate less free cash in fiscal '07 and to begin a return to structural balance. Didn't happen. Of course, we didn't get the report, so we didn't know that, and that they're telling us our bond rating is going to go down, and you've indicated that it's likely to go down again in September when we go out to bond more money. And the problem I see is that means interest rates are going up. That means costs are going up to do these projects. We have the arena ice we're going to have to bond $1 million to fix. And then we're looking at a CSO project that we're going to have, that I have a motion on later. The design review is supposed to be back in March of '07. That's estimated at $60 million. So you bump up the interest rate a little bit on $60 million, that's significant money. I can appreciate, and I think we need to use these things as a tool moving forward. But I think that what we're faced with here is a significant, is going to be a significant hit on the taxpayers because this wasn't given to us, and we weren't able to address it. And we've got numerous motions for the auditor, myself, on the free cash. What happened, I filed that January 10th. We had a meeting in April. We talked about that at the subcommittee as far as what happened with free cash. Asking for any and all correspondence with DOR. Well, Mr. Auditor didn't receive it, so he's off the hook there. The manager was there. We didn't get it. There was no indication of any discussion with them as to that they disapprove of our practice. Now, I'm not going to go back and play Monday morning quarterback on prior spending of free cash because I wasn't here, and I don't think it's appropriate. So regardless of what was done in the past, it should not have been done this year, and I don't think anybody sitting here would agree, would state that they would go against what DOR said in these letters and would have voted to put $3.5 million in our budget. And that's what we're faced with right now. I mean, Lydia Hill indicates that their level of involvement is prompted, okay, to keep a closer eye on city finances because city finances seem poorly planned and seems to have a deficiency in budget planning and budget forecasting. That would have been nice to know. It would have been nice to know that there's a problem here, rather than finding out that it's now a $6.5 million problem, a $6.3 million problem. Numerous questions about the balance sheet before it was approved. I guess that explains the special meeting and the emergency meeting we had last year that we didn't get answers for. We were told DOR changed their mind. DOR is saying yes, saying no. And I'm flabbergasted that we didn't get this. And I think that it does make a difference. It made a difference this year. And I think that it now is going to fall on the taxpayers, you know, to the tune of $3 million. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. First of all, whether it's Manager Lynch, Manager Cox, Manager Tully, Manager Topia, whoever may be sitting in that chair, they do not spend money, they do not appropriate money, they do not transfer money. The council does. The council does. The council votes on those transfers and those appropriations. Free cash has always been and always will be a projection. No one can put a dollar figure on free cash in June for the following year. You agree with me, Mr. Manager?
Yes.
Now, what has this council and councils of the past done with free cash? They voted to spend $8,500,000. They voted to spend $5 million. They voted to spend $3 million. They voted to spend $888,527 for the sole purpose for the assessors to prepare the tax rate. All that money was used to supplement the taxes. It has always been that way. There's only one alternative. If you didn't use the free cash, you would have to raise the tax levy. Manager Cox last December, when we did have the emergency meeting, and it was frustrating, verbally told the council in December, we have to change the way we operate our finances. He told the council that verbally. I believe he said that again in January. Did he receive a letter? Probably so. He did receive a letter, because I have a copy of it. As Councilor Ahmed Mercy indicated, is the letter a big factor? Or is it the finances that we have to address, the biggest factor? Free cash, $3 million less. In the budget that Manager Lynch presented to us tonight, there's another $3 million that we have to address. Let's address that issue. Let's move forward and roll up our sleeves and work with this man, this manager. and address the issue. And what happened in the past happened. But let's move forward. Let's move forward in a positive way.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a ton of notes that I was going to refer to, and I said, after I heard the colleague to my right, Councilor Armin Mercia, speak and say, let's move on. There probably were letters, and we're going to move on. And I said, good, that's great. I don't need any of these notes. I'm not going to open my mouth. I'm not going to say a word. Until I heard the words, shows a lack of communication. Pointing the finger here, there, everywhere. My notes just came out. I'm going to tell you that I don't blame a city manager who prepares a budget, presents it to this council. We have the right to approve it, send it back, reject it. We can't add to it, but we can send it back. We could have done that. I'm going to admit I don't know that much about finances, although for the past 40 years I took care of a household. I did the best I could. I'm not in any debt. I'm no genius, but I do know how to count, and I know reasonable deduction or this, that, or the other. So that when I do get a budget, I take it upon full faith that the manager that goes over this budget gives me a recommendation that I can either toss out the window or take heed to. And I look upon the budget as I have in June of 2005 for the fiscal year budget, which I brought right here in case people don't believe what it says. And it says, Dear Mayor Mercier and members of the City Council, I'm submitting you today's fiscal year 06 budget. Once again, very difficult choices. And the budget was developed with the best possible services to the citizens of Lowell. Our recommendation will not result in any tax increases for the next year. And he went on to say what different of my colleagues had suggested, that they wanted to see a line item for professional management for the Merrimack Repertory Theater and this thing. I am recommending a school department budget of $125,813.660. This recommendation is an increase of $1,086,287, whatever. And then it says this would not necessitate a tax increase. But presented was a school department budget requesting $128 million, which is an additional $3.3 million over last year's adjusted budget. This request will necessitate an increase in the levy of almost $2.3 million. He told us right here, and that is the time where we make the decision. The council voted to approve and disallow what he said, and approved $2.3 million requested by the school department to pay for teachers' contracts, of which $1 million came from cash reserves and the rest from tax increases. Cox opposed this measure because the city only agreed to pay the first year of the teacher's contract, not the second year. The vote was 7-2, 7 yeas, 2 nays. Councilor Caulfield and myself voted against this. I stand by my vote. Now, I know at the hearing, and this is the only time we can do something about, taxes. And so I went on the recommendation of the former city manager, and I think that's why I sit here. So to place blame and say the auditor didn't know this, he should have known that, this is what I go by. Maybe we should have known. I'm not denying we probably shouldn't, but things change and fluctuate all the time. If you were in the Finance Subcommittee meeting just then, and I know that Councilor Elliott will give a recommendation and a report of progress on that, this is the time at budget time that we can make a difference, that we can set the tax rate and get things straightened out. Secondly, there was another vote when we got information, and you'll hear it from our new city manager who will give us a recommendation. I don't know what your recommendation will be. I asked at the Finance Subcommittee, because I'm concerned about this. the settlement that we got from Drake, the settlement we got from Tewksbury, all went into the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund, which has a surplus of $5 million. I just want to say for the record, at that time, there were 7 yeas, 2 nays. Councilor Caulfield again and I voted against sending it there. So what you do with the recommendation, you will, in not too long from now, bring in a recommendation. So these are the little things that add up to $5.3 million or 6.4 or whatever we're seeing for a deficit now that we have to try to figure out where we're going to get this. I know that when we talked about the garage, for the record, a private citizen asked the question, the bonding of that garage, will it come in this year's tax rate? And it won't. It'll be future. But at that time, I voted for it because I honestly feel we need a garage. That will have no effect on this tax rate this year. It's possibly a few years down the line. And in the meantime, from this point to that point, we have to look for ways to make up for that deficit. I know we bonded more, 4.5 million more, and there was a suggestion from former Manager Cox, and nobody voted to listen to that, and we have to have some way to go with that. But I brought this out because I wasn't going to. I think really it is time to move on and try to correct some shortfall that took place here. But budget time is the only time that you can make a difference by going on the recommendation. And Manager Lynch, I don't know you from a hole in the wall, but I'm sure that I will take heed to the recommendations that you provide. You're the expert. I'm not, and I'm admitting that. I hate to admit that I'm not an expert, but be that as it may. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick?
Thank you. And Councilor Rita Mercy, I agree with you 100% that budget time is the only time to make a difference in what the tax rate's going to be. And that is precisely my point. These 2 letters were received, 3 letters, but the 2 letters from DOR were received January and March. The budget was done in June. If you knew we had 2 letters from DOR that said, don't do what the manager is proposing, would you have still voted for it?
It didn't say that.
It said it recommended not using free cash to balance the operating expenses. Don't use your free cash in your budget. And that's what put us in acute fiscal distress. So I understand what you're saying. The manager gives us a budget. We can cut it, we can't increase it, but if we're not given information whether to make a judgment or whether it's a sound budgetary advice, then that's where I have a problem. I think that the $3 million should not have, the $3.5 million should not have been put in there for free cash. If DOR told us no, if Moody's had told us no, you're spending your reserves, you can't do it, you're hurting your bond rating, knowing we have these bonding issues coming up, the money we're going to have to spend, it's going to create a mess, and that's what we're dealing with now. That's my problem. I voted for the budget, but I didn't know about these letters, and no one else did. That's my problem. I voted without having information.
Thank you. Councilor Ramirez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I just want to be clear that I am going to belabor the point, because I think it's important, Councilor Caulfield, because you're absolutely right. We spend the money. You're absolutely correct. And Councilor Mercy, Rita Mercy, I want you to know that you're absolutely right. It is a budget time. But I do want to belabor Councilor Broderick's point and not sweep it lightly. That what happened here was an absolute breach of the public trust with the prior administration. We detrimentally relied on his suggestions, and now the city's paying for it, and that's a deliberate withholding of information. And the saddest part about all this is that there's no accountability. There's nothing we can do about somebody that breaches the public trust and then moves on and leaves the city and the taxpayers to pick up the tab. And I will remind you that the $290 was paid, and the city didn't find out about it until 7 months later. That these letters came in, and we didn't find out about it until now. That the bond was downgraded, and the manager that we have today told us, not the prior one, because he only answered, I didn't think it was a big deal. This auditor tells us he didn't think it was a big deal. But a 10% increase in the budget is a big deal. So I don't understand why everybody is sweeping everything under the rug. The prior administration had a breach of the public trust, and it's critically important that people realize that, because we are dealing with it, and Councilor Broderick is 100% correct. We are here to clean it up, and that's not fair.
Councilor Milonazo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to tell you that I've sat here now for almost 3 years, and I did not know that we had not submitted what they're calling satisfactory, unaudited, although unaudited balance sheets to the state for review. And now we're being put in a position where we have to submit audited statements. Is that correct, Mr. Manager?
It's not unusual. Most communities submit unaudited balance sheets to the state for approval. It's only extenuating circumstances that require that the balance sheet be.
Which is the position we're in now.
The city has not acted improperly in filing unaudited before. Typically, the audit's completed sometime after December. It's very rare that it's before, but it's. But this time we are being required to submit audited before they'll approve anything.
Okay. Again, just to follow up on some of what my colleagues have said, I mean, I do think that if I had had this information prior to the vote on the budget, the January 3rd letter, the March letter, information on the bond rating, I certainly would have looked at the budget differently back in June. So it's unfortunate. Again, I think with Manager Lynch now going forward, looking at FY07's budget, having the audit firm in here now conducting an audit, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to deal with the problem that we have. And it is, I mean, to have the taxpayers know, I mean, it's a big problem. And subcommittee tonight that Councilor Elliott will touch upon later, we're looking at a $6.5 million deficit for FY07. So it clearly is a problem that we will need to work on.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll provide a report on FY07, which is a motion that was referred, but I think it's quite unfortunate that this council was never notified of communications from the Department of Revenue. And it's not as if we didn't ask, because I can point to motions that I'll just speak for myself, and there was others that filed motions starting in September of last year, asking about free cash questions. I had a motion on the 10th, July 10th, a week after the city manager received the letter from the Department of Revenue. I mean, if we're getting to the state, and this shouldn't just glaze over this lightly. We have to move forward. We don't have any other choice. We're not seen we're under the scope of the Department of Revenue. It's very unusual. I've been sitting here for 9 years. I've never seen a letter from the Department of Revenue warning us, asking us for information, asking for audited reports. That's very unusual. I don't think I've ever heard it at all whatsoever that they're asking for audited reports. They're saying, we don't trust what's going on in the city. We're not going to let what happened last year. It's stated in their letter, considering the issues, accounting issues that arose in FY06 that inevitably led to the approval of the 06 tax rate in December, and the failure of the city to submit unaudited balance sheets. I mean, this is not to be taken lightly. It's not, well, we got some letters, yeah, we just didn't receive them. I completely agree with Councilor Ramirez. We serve the people, and anything that comes from the manager's office comes to us, and we give it to the people. Had we known that we were in such fiscal jeopardy, and that's why I filed the motion 2 weeks ago, to have the manager to come back, because the picture is not good. The picture for this fiscal year. So it shouldn't be taken lightly. And I understand, supporters of the former city manager would like this to go away. But the people should know, this is not something, not one letter, not two, even July 25th, we got a letter from Powers and Sullivan, our auditors, saying you got some problems. Again, you better address them. You're going to end up in the same fiscal mess you were, having emergency meetings, hoping to set the tax rate, and our back's up against the wall. So I was disappointed. I was frustrated. I was upset because we asked on repeated occasions. We had every opportunity to receive this information because it would have had an impact on these budget deliberations, knowing the concerns that the Department of Revenue had. This is just not about free cash, please. The people should know. We shouldn't be balancing the budget with free cash. You don't start and say, we can get this much from the state, local aid, we're gonna get this much from property taxes, and we're gonna get this much from free cash. It's wrong. I've been saying it for 9 years. I said it in the subcommittee meeting. I'm even tired of hearing myself say it, but it's not good fiscal practice. This manager has told us that agrees that it's not a good practice, because you're hoping to get money to balance the budget. If there is extra money at the end of the year, yes, put it towards the taxes. I completely agree, but don't build the budget saying, we're going to get 3.5, 7.5, 9.5, whatever the case may be, to reduce the tax rate and hope it comes in, because it doesn't happen, and it hasn't happened. You don't get one time, and it's a one time. We don't know what we're going to get from year to year. Presumably, we're going to get some money. My crystal ball isn't any clearer than anyone else's, but to say after last year that we barely got 4.2 in free cash, and we put $5 million in the budget, we barely made it through, but we continued to live on borrowed time. We're now facing, this year's budget had $3.5 million in it. We were told tonight, maybe we'll get 500, maybe 6. That's not the way to run this operation. But that's a subcommittee report. I do want to address this. I think it's unfortunate. I think it is a disservice to the people of this city that we were literally kept in the dark, because this would have made a significant impact on not only the budget, how about the garage? I mean, this fiscal issue is not going to go away this year. It's not going to go away next year, because it does have that domino effect. So I'll bring the report in later on where we are with FY07, Mr. Manager. But many of us filed countless motions to find out where we were from a fiscal perspective because of the issues of the prior year, and we never received one word as to where we were at. I find it hard to believe. I think Councilor Broderick did it. Mr. Kennedy and Mr. McCarthy, I feel like I have to ask this question. Mr. Auditor, answer the question. No one knew that these letters were coming? And I know you're here, and the former manager is not. I mean, so the manager's the only one that knew that we had received these letters from DOR. I mean, I guess I'll ask you, the manager, but while they're here, it just...
Excuse me. I spoke with the Chief Financial Officer and the Assistant Manager after I met with the Department of Revenue, and I was advised that while they knew that there was a requirement like that, Mr. Kennedy knew there was a requirement, he had not seen the correspondence. And Mr. McCarthy was not
okay,
aware of it.
and people don't want to blame. I'm not pointing the blame. We have to move on. We have no choice, and that's why we met tonight. That's why we continue to meet. There's another motion to look at the 05 audit. We just got it on our desk tonight. I'm glad to see that we just got it, because we need to tackle these issues, and we have been trying to, and finally we are going to. But those are my comments. Well, I'm sure we'll discuss this a little bit further and with the report to come. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you. I'll leave you with one thought. I remember the last budget hearing, and the manager said, I'm going to apply this much of the free cash, and there was a rallying call to apply it all. Apply it all, put it all. Now, it's like, I never thought that was the right thing to do. So, I mean, where am I here? You either wanted it all applied or you didn't want it applied. I don't get where we're going with it.
Well, Mr. Mayor, can I just
Councilor
respond?
Elliott.
Councilor Mercer
names.
I've never heard more smoke and mirrors coming. The fact of the matter is the numbers don't lie. She can point the finger at me all she wants.
I didn't mention
Since I've
your
been here
name.
for 9 years, well, I know, but apparently,
I didn't mention
it
a
was
name.
in the
I
newspaper.
didn't.
But putting that all aside, I don't advocate using all the free cash reserve. I always advocated not using it. That doesn't make any sense. Maybe the people need to look at the tapes and they can make up whatever stories they want. The bottom line is, free cash is part of it. You know, we don't have to apply free cash. You can cut the budget. I know that's a novel idea that people don't want to do, but you can cut the budget, because I'm willing to take those votes, because when it comes time to go to the people and say, you know, did you cut the budget? Can you cut back, or, you know, you're just going to raise my taxes? I'm going to say that I put my foot forward. I took a tough vote and take the path of least resistance. Free cash is an easy way out to say, oh, you know, let's just blame it all on free cash. It's not free cash. It's spending, and it's taking tough votes and telling the taxpayers that that's what you're going to do. Not, you know, well, we're going to advocate using free cash. It makes no sense. But, you know, there's a lot of spin going on here tonight, and at least the truth is finally coming forward.
Thank you. Councilor Milonazo?
Just as a follow-up, I just want to say that, again, I voted on the free cash issue. I voted on the free cash issue because I thought I had correct information in front of me. I obviously did not have correct information in front of me back when we approved the budget. So, again, Councilor Mercy can say on a 7-2 vote, whatever the vote was, but again, we're relying on information from the previous administration, which appears to not have been accurate.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick?
Councilor Milonazo basically hit on the head. I mean, we can bring up every vote that was taken in the last 6 years on free cash. It's irrelevant. In my view, it's irrelevant. I wasn't here, so I get a pass on it. But it's irrelevant because we didn't get letters the last 6 years. We got them this year. That wasn't disclosed to us, and I submit that it would have made a difference. I think everybody sitting here would have had a gut check, and it wouldn't have been, let's throw it in and roll the dice anyway. And that's what's going to cost us. This isn't only about free cash, as Councilor Elliott said, but that's going to cost us $3 million on our taxes this year. It's that simple.
Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hopefully after my brief comments, we can move on. And I tried to make that happen a half an hour ago. But I just can't sit here and let the innuendos go over the window, off the ceiling, off the walls, off the desk. Thursday, June 16th, 2005, Manager Cox presented the budget, and he did not recommend the $2.3 million increase to the school department budget. He said it would necessitate a tax increase, and it would also drain our free cash. The vote was 6-2, 1 abstain. Councilor Rita Mercier and I did not support that transfer. You can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. And free cash was an issue that night. Clearly stated it was an issue. We have plenty of free cash. And we didn't. Manager Cox strived not to see that vote follow through. And I said earlier, this council spends the money, they appropriate the money, and they transfer the money. Let's move on.
Well, I have some things I want to add. I'm happy to come down. Councilor Milonazo?
So do it from the floor.
Chair recognizes Mayor Martin.
Thank you, Councilor Milonazo. I didn't know we were going to get into a discussion this evening about the 2005 budget. Yes, there were votes that night. There were votes that to fund the school department budget. It was a 6-2 vote, and it did affect free cash. That was last year. That was last year, not the year we're talking about now. So those votes were made. This body stood before the electorate, and we've moved on from there. Moved on a long time ago. We need to do that again. I agree, Councilor. That's what we need to do. I don't think going back and revisiting 2 budgets ago is helpful to those of us who are championing the cause of moving on. So let's move on. We have a problem. Am I disappointed that we didn't have this correspondence from the Department of Revenue? Absolutely. But we have to deal with this problem now. I think that's what the taxpayers of this city want to see from us. They want to see, yes, we're going to we're in a budget deficit situation here. It's probably going to mean a tax increase. The budget calls for a tax increase. The budget that this council approved calls for a tax increase. Now we think there may be more of one. This manager has challenges ahead. Maybe he's going to be able to bring in this budget with less of a tax increase than we think. But that's what we need to do. We need to work for the taxpayers of this city. If things had been different, if we had different information, yes, perhaps different votes would have been made. But that's past. It's past. So if we want to move on, let's stop talking about budget votes that occurred 2 years ago and move on. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I agree with that leadership decision. Let's move on. Everybody got off their chest what they wanted to. Let's now go forward. and put the burden on the new city manager as to how we're going to handle this problem.
Okay. Anything further on this issue? Anything, Councilor Elliott?
Yeah, I just want to respond one last time. You're absolutely right, Mayor. It's 2 years, you're right, 2 fiscal years that we're talking about. You know, I didn't hear anybody make motions at that budget hearing either to reduce the school budget either. I hear votes that, you know, if we do this, then it's going to impact that. It's a shell game. That's only one piece of it. Because that year, the levy also went up, if we want to go back and look at the votes at the end of the year, because enough wasn't raised. So, you know, we can do all the shell games, we can point the fingers all that we want. The fact of the matter is, it's not just one vote. Again, I repeat, I didn't hear anyone make a motion to cut the school department budget. The motion was that, well, we're going to use free cash or not. And that free cash didn't come until, well, I'll presume that it was December, because we don't set a tax rate until December. So we can spin it all we want, but we say we want to move forward, but people just keep bringing issues back, which is fine. Just tell people the truth and not the smoke and mirrors that has been taking place. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, anything further on the manager's reports? There were a number of them in addition to this item, but I think most of them are self-explanatory. Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the public hearings. There is a petition to the City Council from Thompson Realty Trust, requests storage of 800 gallons of Class 1B flammable for 105 Peavy Street. Anybody wishing to speak, we'll open this public hearing to those wishing to speak in favor. Anybody wishing to speak in favor, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Hearing none, that portion. Do you want to speak in favor, sir?
I'm here to represent the company that's down there, and basically they're using it for the increase in production on the floor. So it's basically paints and thinners and stuff like that.
Could we just have your name, sir?
Richard Mossy, RM Environmental.
Okay. Okay, anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the council? Councilor Rita Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Did the fire department sign off on that and approve of the storage?
The fire chief is here. Could we hear from Chief DeRozier?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors. The fire department has not signed off yet, but we have had discussions with this company. Our role comes in after the council votes, and if you should vote in favor of this, then the fire department's role is to inspect it and issue permits, and none of these flammables can be on site until we issue the permit. We make sure that all the safety factors are in place, the building is sprinkled, and all the codes are up to speed, and then we would issue the permit, Councilor.
And then what happens, Chief, if, not necessarily this company, but let's say that things weren't up to code, then would you come back to us? What would you do from that point? And I'm not referring to this company, I'm just saying, what's the procedure if someone didn't comply with the code and the rules?
Well, Council, the permit does have to be renewed, and before we renew a permit, we go back and inspect and make sure that all the safety features are still in place and all the codes are met. So if they were not in place, we would revoke the permit. They would have to remove the flammable liquids until they got back up to the code compliance.
All right, that's fine, thank you.
Okay, what's the wish of the council? Motion to approve by Councilor Milanazzo, seconded by Councilor Ramirez. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 nay.
Okay, the next item are appointments to the Cultural Council. It's a communication from the city manager, dear Mayor and members of the City Council, pursuant to the authority vested in me as city manager under Mass General Laws, Chapter 10, Section 58 and 962, Code of Mass Regs 2.04. I have appointed to membership in the Lowell Cultural Council as of August 22, 2006, for a term expiring August 22, 2009, or such time thereafter until a successor is appointed and qualified. The following persons: Devira Kai, 154 Cross Street; Maria Cole, 35 Riverwalk Way; Andrew Wetmore, 200 Mass Mill Drive. Under the above referenced statute, confirmation by the city council is not required. I have attached a copy of their resumes for your convenience and happy to answer any inquiries you have concerning these applications. Very truly yours, Bernard Lynch, City Manager.
Move we accept the communication and place them on file.
Motion to accept the communication placed on file by Councilor Armin Mercia, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. All those, we need roll call. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Communication is accepted. Next item is an appointment, notice of appointment to the Lowell Housing Authority. Dear Mayor, members of the City Council, pursuant to the authority vested in me as City Manager under Mass General Law, Chapter 121B, Section 5, I am appointing Rosaline J. Willie Bongalo, 21 Avenue C, Lowell, as a member of the Lowell Housing Authority as the tenant representative thereto to fill the unexpired term of Constance Asian, which term expires December 28, 2010, or such time thereafter until a successor is appointed and qualified. Confirmation by the City Council is required for this appointment and hereby requested. Resume is attached. I'll be happy to answer any inquiries. It's the wish of the council.
Move for approval.
Motion approved by Councilor Caulfield, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Roll call.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue. Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Present.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
7 yeas, 1 present.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Could we ask the Housing Authority to send a letter of thanks to Mrs. Asian, who has served on the board for a number of years? Connie Asian, who was retiring.
Pass that request along, Councilor.
Thank you.
Next item is a appointment to the Lowell Historic Board. Dear Mayor and members of the City Council, pursuant to the authority vested in me as City Manager under Section 5A of Chapter 566 of the Acts of 1983, I have appointed the following person to the Lowell Historic Board: Susan Zachara, Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce, as a Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce representative and Downtown Lowell Business Association member for a 2-year term expiring February 28, 2008. Under the above statute, confirmation by the City Council is required and is hereby requested. Be happy to answer any inquiries. Any questions? It's the wish of the council.
Move
Motion to
approval.
approve by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Caulfield. Roll call, please.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue. Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 present.
Next item is a order pursuant to Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning 13-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations. Temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days, whereas the City of Lowell desires to make temporary rules regulating traffic for a period of 60 days, and whereas Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Section 13-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, authorizes the City Council to make such temporary rules for a period not to exceed 60 days. Now therefore be it ordered, adjudged, and decreed by the City Council of Lowell as follows, effective upon passage and continuing for a period of 60 days, the following temporary traffic regulations shall be implemented. Section 13-117B, one-way streets during school arrival and dismissal times, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. is hereby created by adding the following: Jackson Street from Revere Street eastbound to Martin Street. Section 13-156, parking for a handicapped person is amended by adding the following: 585 Merrimack Street, 585 Merrimack Street, and then Section 13-158, parking prohibited on certain streets at all times. Elmwood Avenue, both sides between Bridge Street and Hampshire Street, Section 13-177, loading zone at 165 Jackson Street, and handicap drop-off zone at 165 Jackson Street. Second reading by title and order pursuant to Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 13-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations. Temporary regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. There is a person registered to speak on this matter.
Chad Brouillard, representing the charter school on Jackson Street.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Manager, members of the council. Again, my name is Chad Brouillard. I'm an attorney for the Lowell Community Charter School, which is on Jackson Street. The reason I'm here before you is I believe this order was placed into your hands in some part by a plan developed by the Department of Planning and Development. And I think that was placed in your hands with the understanding that the school had a chance to give input as to the plan that's being put into place, but that isn't exactly true. In fact, there are several crucial safety issues that have been left out of this plan. One of them having to do with the hours of parking that was discussed in the order. The school's position is that all this changes to the parking area is as a result of the JAMS construction project. And the school recognizes the benefit to the obvious benefit to the city of this program. But their position is, you know, let's not run over school children in the process of hurrying up to get this thing built. And I'm afraid that the plan from the Department of Planning and Division is just wholly inadequate on several key issues. The first has to do with the hours that construction trucks are permitted to run up and down the street. I believe what's before you is set for 7 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock in the morning. However, there are children in the street from 6:30 to 8:30. Today was the opening of school. And at 8 o'clock, or very soon thereafter, there were construction trucks running up and down the street. Well, kids were still coming in, families were still dropping off children. And so, of course, this creates an enormous safety hazard for these children. We would ask to be heard on this issue that the hours be extended from 6:30 to 8:30 on Jackson Street for one-way direction of travel. In addition, we were told by the city department that there would be police detail present because a major traffic pattern is being changed. A two-way street, Jackson Street, is essentially being turned into a one-way street. Well, there was no police detail this morning, and that created a little bit of chaos. I have been told by the department that, you know, here forward for the rest of the week, there should be police detail there. And this afternoon, someone did show up a little bit later. But again, this is something that the school was completely an afterthought, what seems to us. Finally, the plan developed by the Department of Planning and Development has no consideration of foot traffic at all. There are many school children that walk to school. Because of the construction, the normal sidewalks are no longer on one side. On the other side, it's completely filled with cars from the curb to the building so that a child couldn't cross or use it as a sidewalk. So what you have here is a situation where kids are walking to and from school in the street. And in fact, the one crosswalk in front of the school now runs into some of the construction fence. There's nowhere for these children to go. That is related to the fact that last year, the school had a crossing guard. This year, the city has taken away the crossing guard. So now you can imagine the chaos. There are children walking up and down the street. There are construction trucks staging materials. There are buses. There are parents dropping off. It's just an enormous safety hazard for these children. When combined with the fact that its school itself has no designated parking for its staff, its disabled members, its elderly members, its pregnant teachers, they're basically thrown out to the wolves and asked to walk over to a lot, which I would offer that no one here would want their pregnant family members, their disabled family members to have to walk down to a lot that is not well lit, to a lot that has huge piles of debris about the size of small buses strewn about it, and which will be a very dangerous. The area leading up to the parking area actually has a small bridge with no reflective surfaces. So come the winter months, when it gets darker earlier, this too is going to be a safety hazard. All of these items were not contemplated in the Department of Planning and Development's proposal to this council. And I would ask you to take a second look, and I would ask you that you have the department address these concerns in writing in the plan that they've issued in regards to getting this trial order. I would, I wonder if it might be helpful to hear from one of the actual parents in regards to conditions.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sir, don't leave the microphone. This elected body is very concerned about the safety of the children. And if, Mr. Manager, could you supply a police detail? If we had a police detail there in the morning and in the afternoon, would that secure your questions?
Well, that would only handle part of the problem.
But it would be a start, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, that's been promised already. It would be a start, but really, the larger issue is that when the department came up with its planning, it did not contemplate that there was a school there.
But let's get back to the original problem, safety.
Yes.
And we want to address that.
Right.
If we address the safety issues, would you and the parents and the children and the teachers be happy with that?
Of course.
Okay, then why don't we address the safety issues, and Mr. Manager, if you could take over from here and let this gentleman know what we plan on doing.
Sure. I do think that we have been trying to work closely with the charter school. We've had staff meeting regularly with the charter school to try to work out their issues. I know that the preliminary issues seem to be the parking issue before any of the discussion of the traffic issues came about. And as you've pointed out, there are some issues out there with parking, with the construction going on, and there was a request made for certain reserved parking across the street from the charter school, which we simply can't accommodate. But with regards to the traffic, I guess I would look to the chief regarding the detail issue, and perhaps he can address that. But we are taking steps. We have already cut back the brush. There is lighting going in there that's already been planned, and the debris is going to be removed. We do have plans for that because that area does have some that we're trying to deal with. But we have made certainly a number of efforts to try to work with the staff at the charter school, and we will continue to do so. But if the chief could address the detail issue, that may address Councilor Caulfield's question.
Well, if I could, just two other points. Besides just the police detail, it's the hours that the trucks are coming up and down. There's in the morning, particularly. Right now, the prohibition is from 7 to 8. We really need from 6:30 to 8:30 because that's when the children are in the street. That's a primary issue that even a police detail is not going to handle, because if the trucks feel that they are entitled to start rolling in the streets at 8 o'clock, you'd have the same safety hazards for the children.
Mr. Manager? Yeah.
If I may, what are the hours of the school? What's the hours that they operate?
6:30 to 6.
What time does the school actually begin classes?
What's that? There is a before school program that starts accepting children at 6:30. That's the problem.
But what time do they start classes?
8 o'clock.
Okay. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mr. Mayor, and members of the City Council. This is the second meeting I've been at where issues have come up about Lower Jackson Street, and we're more than happy to help in any way that we can. But there is a school located in an area that's zoned for industry, and there's been a significant amount of change around that school that we really haven't been prepared to deal with because of planning. We have spent some time working with the Department of Planning and Development talking about putting a Band-Aid on what is a major issue right now in that particular area. So the solutions to this require some discussion prior to political action. And it's possible we can come up with a plan. I do not have officers that I can send down there, Councilor. I did that the last time we were here, and we've had an officer assigned to the end of Jackson Street now since the last time we spoke. What we're talking about is an increase in the number of crossing guards that we have. And if crossing guards aren't there, then police officers are there. And if police officers are there, they're coming from Pawtucketville or Centerville or Belvedere to go into that particular area. So I think that there are concerns about lighting down there, but again, this is a new facility. There are concerns about security that we should be addressing, but I think to address them, we need to sit down and plan some response that would be logical and within our budgets. And certainly when someone comes to a meeting and brings up the safety of children and pregnant women, we all want to help as best we can, but it requires some planning, I think, prior to the political structure, so that we can come up with something that we can do within the budget that we have.
Thank you, Chief. Well, let me, Mr. Manager?
If I may, Counselor, I think if I could follow up on the Chief's comments, I think that the issue is one of being able to assign a detail officer is going to be difficult for us to accomplish without taking police off the street in other parts of the city that clearly need that protection to essentially provide some traffic coverage. But I think what the Chief's comment is that what we need to do is we need to continue the dialogue with the school, and we're certainly willing to do that to try to address some of their concerns. We've got additional signage planned. We're continuing to try to work in a cooperative fashion, but it is a difficult situation given the location of the school in that particular area.
Could I please just correct one thing? There's actually no crossing guard. The crossing guards got yanked from the school by the city earlier in the summer. So it's not an issue of there will be police detail, there will be crossing guards. There's no crossing guards. I mean, that's a key issue. So I'm not sure which department to refer this to, but clearly, in regards to foot traffic, that has to be the bare minimum.
Thank you. Councilor Armin Mercier?
I would like to suggest that the traffic regulations as it relates to the Jackson Street be put off until meetings are held with DPD, the police department, and the people at the charter school until the next meeting, so that they could probably try to resolve this. Because I believe that what the chief is saying is absolutely right. There needs to be more dialogue here before the political process takes place as to how we're going to satisfy their requests. But I would not be opposed to approving all the others.
Okay. So motion to amend this proposal to delete the items related to Jackson Street, have those come back for the next meeting,
Yes,
and
let
act on
everybody
the...
get together and see if they can resolve the issue.
Okay. Second? By
Yes, second.
Councilor Rita Mercier?
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I addressed this issue last school year when we did have a traffic supervisor there, and times were that that person wasn't always there. So I called, that comes under the police department, even though we're relating to schools. It's a police department issue. The traffic supervisors come under that. And I did call and talk to Paul Corcoran, who is in charge. He's the police officer in charge of the detail for traffic supervisors. And they're not police, they're regular retired people that mostly come back. We are not obligated to supply a traffic supervisor to your school. However, I don't have a problem with doing that. We're talking about money, and I understand we just went through the fact that we're $6.4 million in deficit here, but I'm thinking a traffic supervisor makes a stipend of, what do they make a year, $1,400? I mean, how expensive can that be for the protection of our children, who happen to be my responsibility as a public official to see that children can maneuver across the street safely? Having said that, it would be nice if we could have a partnership between someone in your school when our supervisor is not there all the time, and maybe put an orange thing on a parent or someone that could help in the meantime to help. I understand, maybe a teacher, maybe teachers could take turns till that time. And I think it's incumbent upon us to have a dialogue and have a recommendation from the manager to protect children crossing a street. That's my problem. That's my responsibility. And I admire you for coming forward, because the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I want you to have some help. You're educating our future. One of your students may be a person that operates on me in time. So we need to protect our children, our parents and teachers, and I know, Mr. Manager, you're going to do that, and so that was a good motion to put it off, and I admire you for being here. I want you to get some help here.
Thank you. Councilor Milonazo?
Thank you. I plan on supporting the motion, but I guess what I would say, again, in the spirit of making sure that our children are safe, that as we continue now with the discussions, that the charter school is willing to meet us halfway. I'm getting somewhat of a sense that there's some blame being put on the planning department, and I again, and if I'm hearing you incorrectly, I apologize, but again, I guess I just want to reinforce the fact that there's got to be some meeting of the minds here over the next 30 days in order that we come to some plan that works for everybody.
Well, that's really what we're looking for, because we were supposed to have a public hearing in a subcommittee before this order was put before you. That never happened. So there's no dialogue. There's only the Department of Planning telling us, handing me their plan last week, saying, here's what's going to happen. That's not a dialogue.
And it also doesn't sound like the Division of Planning and Development, but again, I'll wait for the report.
Hey, Councilor Elliott?
Thank you. I'll support the motion too, to get a little bit more communication going. But I happened to drive through there today, and I actually saw the charter member. I saw Mr. Taylor and the principal, and I know maybe the volume of cars weren't down there, but I saw a number of parents and teachers with the crossing, with the fluorescent vest on, and I was ushered right through. I thought the operation was working fine. Maybe it needs to be tweaked a little bit more. I'm sure when the school year starts, there'll be a lot more cars, but at least there's some progress, and they're working, on their end, and maybe you just need to continue the dialogue, because there is a system in place, and maybe it needs to be tweaked. So it doesn't seem like that's a fair representation that we're ignoring the issue, and maybe we need to add a couple of more little variables there. So I'll support the motion to delay and have the manager and chief work a little bit closely to address. We're building a garage. There's nothing that can be done. I mean, we can't stop. I understand maybe the window of time, but the more we delay, I'll presume on the back end the school will want the delay of trucks going down there when the school gets out. So I think we have to be met somewhere. We got to build that garage.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councilor Milonazo and Councilor Elliott that, this is going to be a difficult situation. There's not going to be a perfect answer, or maybe not even a real good answer or solution. Everybody's in the same mess. It's part of the progress. It's the growing pains over there. But I do look forward to the manager's recommendation, and I will say that I was under the understanding that DPD was working with you, with Ann Barton, so it would surprise me that you weren't having your needs at least listened to, but I look forward to the manager's recommendation. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, just one comment, and I'll stand corrected if need be. But as I understand the motion, this would delay the making that street one-way during those hours, which is worse, really. What I think is preferential is to move forward with this order, this temporary order, with the understanding that we will continue the dialogue. And there have been numerous occasions in which we've tried to work with the staff, but we will continue to do that. But this should be voted now with the possibility of trying to work out other arrangements and perhaps coming back with some change with a recommendation as to whether or not to increase that beyond those hours.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Manager Lynch. But am I understanding that it'll be one way, and what they're concerned about is heavy traffic from 7 o'clock to the rest of the day? Why can't we make it one way after 8 o'clock and let the heavy traffic go around Middlesex Street instead of crossing these children? And you know what I'm saying? Once it's 8 o'clock and they're in school, why can't we then let the traffic go by?
That's when it goes back to being a two-way street. It's one way from 7 to 8 to keep the trucks from going down there,
okay,
so that they're not interfering in making it a hazardous situation. So we want to have it at least one way, 7 to 8. We think that that's a reasonable level, particularly given the need we have to get that construction moving forward with the garage. It's a short-term problem that we need to get that construction moving, otherwise the project becomes delayed. But we want to work with the school in trying to look at, whether there's no other option but to change the hours, or whether we can come up with some other solutions to address their concerns. But it really, for the safety of the children, it has to be one way from 7 to 8, which is what we've proposed here and what we tried out today. It's just a question, as I understand it, the school would like it a longer period to be one way.
We would like it to 8:30, just because there are stragglers, and as it was today, as soon as they had the get-go, the construction was going up and down that road, and there were kids in the middle of the road while these trucks are going up and down, and that 8:30 would I think solve our concerns. We're not so concerned about the afternoon. We think they've pegged the time correctly, but we would like it extended just to 8:30. I don't think it's a very unreasonable concession.
And if, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I think that to start with, if we do the 7 to 8, and we will work with the school to determine whether it should move from 8 to 8:30, or whether some other alternatives might be possible. And we will come back to the council at the next meeting with a report on that.
So then I think the maker of the motion might want to withdraw it.
Okay.
And I might want to withdraw my
So
second.
you withdraw the
Withdraw
motion.
the motion based on the recommendation
I'm sorry,
of the city manager.
there's a representative for the parents. I don't think she
Sure.
officially registered, but could
All
she
right,
just...
move to suspend the rules to allow the parent to speak, or what, yes.
She would just like to speak.
Seconded by...
Motion to suspend the rules by
Rules.
Councilor Rita Mercia, seconded by Councilor Caulfield. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay. Matt?
Hi, I'm
Just
Nancy.
your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Nancy Gentili. I live in Tewksbury, but my daughter goes to the charter school in Lowell, and I'm the chair for the parent organization at the school. And I appreciate your consideration on the what we want to do to implement to change the traffic patterns at the school. It's been a mess since my child went there 3 years ago, and now it's really a mess with all the construction going on. You can't even park on one street and walk over. The only alternative right now is to go to the parking lot down the street and so forth. And I think if they can extend the hours and have the heavy machinery and the trucks delayed, there's 900 kids that go to the school from age 4 till 8th grade. So there's some real little kids here, and they just dart across the street. And some of these parents, I hate to say, just drop the kids off and the kids fly and they don't pay attention. And I think we need to put that in consideration when you're thinking about this and you're making your decisions. But if we can go forward now and at least get something on the board, and then they can work, the school can work with the traffic board or whatever they work with, that would be terrific.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilor Broderick.
Make a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve,
Okay.
with the understanding that we're going to come back at the next meeting with any tweaking or recommendation from the manager.
Okay. Motion to approve by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Ramirez. Councilor Caulfield.
Mr. Mayor, through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, is it possible to paint a crosswalk across the street to give some safety outlook so the youngsters could use the crosswalk? And it's a state law, you have to stop. So if you paint a crosswalk?
Absolutely, we can do that, and I think that obviously it is, as has been pointed out, there are parents that are going to drop off their kids, and we're just going to have to also depend upon the parents to help us with the oversight to make sure that doesn't happen. But we will continue to work with the school, and we will look at the signage and painting a crosswalk as well.
Okay, we are talking about a temporary regulation here, so there's going to
Yes.
be ample opportunity to amend it if necessary. Roll call.
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue? Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1
Okay, the next item, I'm going to recuse myself from participation, ask Councilor Milanazzo to assume the chair.
The next item on the agenda is an order of taking number 10 in the acre. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Armin Mercia, seconded by Councilor Elliott. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, and City Council order of taking number 10 acre to take by eminent domain a certain parcel of land in the City of Lowell for municipal purposes, to wit, the implementation of the acre Urban Revitalization and Development Plan in City Council, August 22nd, read twice. To take by eminent domain a certain parcel of land in the City of Lowell for municipal purposes to with the implementation of the Acre Urban Revitalization and Development Plan. We have a communication from the Planning and Development Office suggesting that the entire the entire taking be referred to the Economic Development Subcommittee for a further review. Before we do that, however, I would like to get into the minutes of the meeting. My involvement in a corporation known as the Common Ground Development Corporation, who had previously expressed an interest in the parcel in question this evening. It's my understanding that they have withdrawn any and all interest in the parcel. So I have been advised by both the State Ethics Commission as well as our City Solicitor's Office that I submit a letter, which I have done, and I'm also asking that it get put in the minutes under, I believe it's Chapter 23 Section 23 of Chapter 268A, the Conflict of Interest Law, that the corporation has no interest now or in the future in this particular parcel. So I believe that that covers my involvement as a member of the Board of Directors of Common Ground. But again, what we're looking for tonight in the communication from Assistant City Manager Matt Coggins is that the matter be referred to the Economic Development Subcommittee for deliberation. What's the wish of the council?
Motion to refer this to the Economic Development Subcommittee
Motion by Rita
as
Mercia to refer,
suggested.
seconded by Councilor Ramirez. All those in favor referring the issue?
Aye.
Aye. Councilor Elliott? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Can I get just a couple I know it's going to go to the subcommittee, but what is the zoning on this, Mr. Coggins? Is it still is it SMU on this site? And it just, it's still the same parcel property. Mr. Susi is interested now in selling it rather than being relocated and developing it. Is that the difference? The city is just going through the eminent domain and the terms of the agreement have changed?
It is in fact the exact same parcel that was right before the council before. That original development plan was rejected. To answer your first question, the zoning is UMF, it's urban multifamily. I know there were some issues on the council when we were before you last time about the proposed density of the project. As it is presented this time, we will be acquiring the land, and then we will, as the owner, go out with an RFQ or an RFP for the disposition of the property. So we would be coming back to you with a revised density plan before we would go out on that parcel. So at that time, we would address any of the issues regarding the number of residential units that would go on the site.
Okay, and maybe that's where I was confused.
Yes.
When you mentioned Common Ground had an interest in it, is that just a discussion with the corporation? There was no discussion with the city, or?
It's my understanding there had been discussion with the city, with Ann Barton, and that actually came up at the last Economic Development Subcommittee meeting, which I immediately stated that I was a member of the Board of Directors.
But we would still be going out, this would
That's
go out for
correct.
solicitation anyway. I mean,
Absolutely.
It was just a discussion, and that's what
That's
we
correct.
disclosed.
But again, to be careful,
Right.
as we all try to be, I submitted a letter to the State
Okay.
Ethics Commission, and they advised that even though I stated publicly that I'm a member, I could not take part in any
Okay.
deliberations, including the
I-
eminent domain discussions.
Right.
But because they're no longer interested, I can.
Okay, I just want to make sure, I presume that we were going out for solicitation. Are there any plans or discussions that DPD has had as to what the RFP is going to look like, what we're going to look for, what density, what zoning?
Well, again, if you think back to the original acre plan, it calls for housing on the site.
Right.
The issue, again, before the council last time was the amount of units for that. We would initially be going out again for residential development. We will come back either through a subcommittee or to the council as a whole, whatever is the wish of the body, to take a look at reducing that density and finding a scale and a density that is more appropriate to the area and that gives the council a greater comfort level before going out with an RFP.
Is that the appraisals that we got, 1.175? Are those is that the
That was the
value
higher
of
of the
land?
two appraisals that was done 2 years ago. And again, because it's an urban renewal area, we are allowed to accept that. Obviously, commercial or land values have been going up. The owner has agreed to that price, which was the higher of the two appraisals. The other appraisal was $980, I believe. And again, 2 years old, but he is willing to accept that. This is a friendly taking.
Okay, I'll I'll have other questions at the subcommittee, but thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, can you just, oh, I thought we had done that. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Send it to the economic subcommittee, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
So he had a conflict, and he had a conflict.
Okay, the next item is an ordinance amending zoning regulations. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Appendix A thereof, entitled Lowell Zoning Ordinance, by amending various sections. Is there a motion to waive the full reading of this? It's quite lengthy. So moved by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Elliott. Second reading by title. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Appendix A thereof, entitled Lowell Zoning Ordinance, by amending various sections. I believe this matter is to be referred to the Planning Board. Motion to so refer by Councilor Milanazzo, seconded by Councilor Ramirez. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter is referred to the Planning Board for report and recommendation. Next item is an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 16 thereof, entitled Police, concerning table of organization relative to captains and sergeants. A motion to waive the full reading of this by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Ramirez. All those in favor of waiving the full reading say aye. Any opposed? The full reading is waived. Second reading by title. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 16 thereof, entitled Police, concerning the table of organizations relative to captains and sergeants. This matter is to be referred to a public hearing on September 12th. A motion to refer to a public hearing by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter is referred to a public hearing on September 12th. Okay. There is a communication from the city manager. I think we need to, if I could have a motion to suspend the rules by Councilor Rita Mercia, seconded by Councilor Milanazzo, to entertain this communication. All those in favor of suspending the rules say aye. Any opposed? The rules are suspended. Dear Mayor and members of the City Council, please be advised that I will be out of town beginning Saturday, September 9 through Thursday, September 14, at the International City Managers Association. With City Council's approval, I would like to recommend that T.J. McCarthy, Assistant City Manager, be appointed as Acting City Manager. If you have any questions regarding this request, please do not hesitate to contact me. Yours truly, Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager. Motion to accept the communication placed on file by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Rita Mercia. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Matter is accepted and placed on file. Oh, I'm sorry. We need a roll call, please.
Councilor Milanazzo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue? Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Ammon Mercia? Yes. Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
8 yeas. Matters approved. Subcommittee reports. Any subcommittee reports? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance Subcommittee met this evening regarding a motion by Council Broderick and myself to get an overview and have the city manager take a look at the 07 budget. The manager at the subcommittee went through the budget. He has prepared a spreadsheet to take a look at where we are at, and from the revenue and expenditure basis, and I won't go through the entire report. There are some areas that we, on the revenue side, we overestimated our revenue, and we actually overestimated our expenditures, which is not good news. There are some areas, local receipts are projected to come in 1.75 million less. So that's a starting point. We're looking at free cash has coming in approximately $3 million less. So I'd really like to refer to the manager he can elaborate a little bit more. He put together the report. It was a lengthy discussion as to where we are at and what we have to do to get back on track, because we are not on track. We're looking at a $6 million shortfall at this point as a result of increased expenditures. There is no short-term fix. We're looking at additional costs in pension and health care, as well as debt service. Other areas remain constant. There were some other additional increases. Council on Aging has an additional request for $13,000 in energy costs. But this is the reason why I filed the motion to have the manager take a look at it. We didn't get a clear picture, in my opinion. Once we finish the budget, I want to know what impact it's going to have. Manager's going to come back with some recommendations. But the picture is not very good. As a result of, again, overestimating and underprojecting revenues and expenditures, we're in difficult shape. Again, free cash is clearly an issue, but in my opinion, it's about spending. And I think we need to tighten the belt. I said that in the subcommittee. We have to continue to do it because we are not in the clear. This year we have some serious financial issues, and we need to plan better in the future. I completely agree. We got to get away from the free cash, relying on free cash, as I mentioned earlier. It's a stopgap measure. I think we should just use it as a one-time expense, address debt, reduce the tax rate after, absolutely. So with that, Mr. Manager, you put together the spreadsheet, you presented the analysis, and that was just a recap of the meeting. Let me just bring one more issue forward, Mr. Mayor, if that's okay, because I don't want to forget. During the meeting, and I believe this will require suspension, there's an opportunity for the city to just apply as an option, a funding option for low-interest loan. Motion by subcommittee was to bring this in and to recommend the application of it. There are two options. It's only an application. It's not committing the city to anything. But as we move forward with, with the SBA money and reconstruction or construction of Morey and Butler schools, the old Butler school, this will be an option. So that was one motion, Mr. Mayor. The other was a report of progress, and the manager can elaborate.
Okay. Which one do you want to handle first? I would suggest we do the second one first.
Well, I probably should have prevented this.
All right.
The second
So there's a
one
motion to suspend the rules by Councilor Elliott to entertain an application submission by the city to the School Building Assistance Bureau, or whatever it's known by these days, to allow, so that the city council will approve this application. The deadline is August 31st. It potentially would enable us to fund the shortfall between the money that's been approved by the School Building Assistance Authority to date and the actual construction cost. There are two alternatives, and we're going to submit under both for the time being. So that's a motion to suspend the rules for that purpose, seconded by Councilor Rita Mercia. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Rules are suspended. Mr. Manager, do you care to elaborate?
I think that Councilor Elliott has outlined it well. Basically, this refers to the Morey School and the old Butler School. Both of those projects are on a waiting list with the School Building Authority. And there's been a little bit of a change in the way the School Building Authority is handling projects now. In the past, if there were costs in excess of what was initially approved, they would simply reimburse based upon the higher number that came in. So if there were change orders or cost increases due to increased bidding costs over the estimate, they would simply come up and pay for that additional money. That has changed now with the new regulations, the new authority, and they are sticking to the level of funding that they approved initially, which in this particular case means that the city would have to come up with an additional roughly $6 million, and we think that number is probably going to be a little bit more based upon increased costs, probably closer to $9 million. So what the state has come forward with is a couple of options, and this just came through at the beginning of the month, August 4th, that they will either allow us to not move forward with one of the projects and then convert it over to a grant for one of the other schools, or if we want to move forward with both projects, they will provide low-interest financing on the increased costs. So we want to look at both of those options, and we're not committing to anything or one way or the other, but we do want to be able to sit down with the school building authority and discuss both of these options and come back with a recommendation as to which direction to head. Unfortunately, the requirement, although the letter came through on August 4th, we have to make a decision, we have to file this by August 31st, and in order to do that, there has to be a vote of the City Council authorizing us or endorsing moving forward to look at these options so that we can document that this discussion was in fact held to do this. So I would ask that the Council authorize myself and the school department, I believe it is, to move forward to file the necessary paperwork so that both of these options are available to us moving forward.
Okay.
So move.
Roll call.
Yes.
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 8 yeas, the matter is approved. Okay, on the initial part of the report, Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, I think Councilor Elliott's report from the subcommittee really outlined the entire fiscal picture that the city is facing. As you know, there was a vote at the last council meeting asking me to meet with the subcommittee, which I did tonight. I did present a report or a spreadsheet that I developed to outline where we were with the fiscal year 07 budget. We're now 2 months into the budget. That this was approved back in June based upon certain assumptions of revenues and certain assumptions of what some of our costs were going to be and certain budget levels. Unfortunately, the information that we now have before us, now that we've pretty much come close to closing out the FY06 budget, is that we have roughly $5 million less in revenue than we had anticipated, or that the City Council had anticipated when they voted this budget, and the actual costs of a number of expenditures have gone up by some $2 million. And when you work out all of the math on this, it basically shows that we have we're out of balance right now. If we were to move forward, if all of these numbers held true, that we would have a budget that's $6.3 million off. Now there may be some of these numbers may change a little bit. For instance, we may pick up a little bit more in new growth from property developments that have happened in the city, or some personal property that we may be able to pick up a little bit of extra money. I don't see us picking up anything in state aid. I don't see us really being able to do much in terms of miscellaneous receipts. Free cash, as has been pointed out on a couple of occasions here tonight, the budget that was approved by the City Council was based upon an assumption of $3.5 million of free cash, and in fact we now estimate that there will only be $500,000 of free cash based upon the closeout of FY06. That may change a little bit to one way or the other, but good likelihood it may go up to about $600,000 if we get some additional state and federal money in that is due to us under grant programs. But again, it's not going to amount to a great deal. So the revenue picture does not look particularly promising for the city. As I say, we might pick up $200,000 or $300,000, but that's about it. On the expenditure side, we do have a number of areas that we have to look at increasing the budget as well. Some that we have a choice on, and some that we really don't. For instance, a debt service, we have that we have to pay the debt that we have on the books, as well as we have a couple of projects that have to go out to be permanently funded, permanently bonded. That is going to result in about $200,000 more of interest costs. We do have a snow and ice deficit left over for fiscal year 06 of $1.25 million. Those are some fixed cost items. We also have some additional claims, legal claims that we have to fund, that may in fact move to the further into the negative as time goes on. More in a discretionary light is that the budget did not accurately reflect some of the energy costs that increases that we're seeing, and I know that all of us see those in our own homes as well as here within the city. The increased cost of fuel has driven those costs up. So the bottom line is, Councilor Elliott has described is really where I see us heading in or being in fiscal year 07, that we have a $6.3 million gap. We have to find a way to fund that. We have to find a way to close that. I am working with the departments to see what savings we can have within the those areas of the budget that are within our control. We still have a number of question marks out there that as time goes forward, we will try to control those costs. I will certainly do everything in my power over the next month and a half to recommend some reductions in some of those budgets to close that gap, because I agree with the notion that we need to live within the amount of money that we have. But in all likelihood, looking at the budget the way it's been approved and the way it's currently structured, we're going to have to look at finding some alternative forms or some other forms of revenue to close this budget gap, and I will come forward to the council with some ideas and recommendations on that, as I say, within the next 60 to 90 days.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Manager Lynch, I want to first thank you for that great report this evening. It was very enlightening, and I want to thank for you and your staff for investigating the budget. And I would imagine that you would be looking for every dollar you could put your hands on.
Yes.
We did receive a settlement from Drake and Tewksbury, $1.1 million. We haven't received it yet, but the majority of the council voted to transfer that money over a 3-year period into the Waste Treatment Enterprise Fund. There's $5 million in that fund. I believe if you do the simple math, it's about 300,000, a little bit better than 350,000 this year. Are you going to address that and see if there's a need for that money to be in that fund? Mm-hmm. And I would like to have you come back with a report on that, because we need that money. And I stated that when that first came about. We need that money to help subsidize us, supplement our taxes. So I would appreciate it if you could look into that.
Mr. Mayor, if I may respond, I think I indicated in the subcommittee report that I will be looking at that as certainly one option that's out there for us. We do have, as you know, a number of capital items at the wastewater plant that need to be addressed, particularly as it relates to odor, that I've met with the director on a couple of occasions now, Mark Young, to look at those costs. We should be getting a better handle on those costs in the very near future, and that should guide us with what we can do with that money. Certainly, that's an option that we need to explore and look at to see how we should move forward with that. But I would also just put out there as a warning that once again, that might be a nice one-time fix of some of our problem. And it's going to alleviate some or ameliorate some of the problem, but it's not going to eliminate it. And it's long-term. So I think we have to have some caution as to how we use any of these one-time sources, and really is something that we need to, and I think it needs to be something that we address in some financial policies, which I'm also, I've indicated to the council that I would like to move forward on that, and I will be coming forward to you in the near future with some ideas on policies that should guide the administration and the council in the future as to how we should be managing our resources. But I will be looking at that.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, anything further? All right, a motion to accept the subcommittee report as a report of progress by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is approved. Any further subcommittee reports? Okay, on the petitions, we have a petition from Attorney Flood and Hardigan for Pilot Perkins LLC. This is a petition to request permission to encroach on a sidewalk at 39 Perkins Street. This matter is to be referred to the Law Department for a proper vote. and recommendation. Motion to so refer by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Matters referred to the Law Department. We also have a late filed petition that I would request a suspension of the rules to take up, filed by Attorney Walter Chambers, representing 391 to 419 Broadway Realty Trust. Motion to suspend by Councilor Ramirez, seconded by Councilor Rita Mercier. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The rules are suspended. This matter is a request for reserved parking spaces for the Lowell Housing Authority at Cross and Willie Street. Again, this matter is to be referred to the Law Department and Manager for report and recommendation. Motion to so refer by Councilor Ramirez, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The rules are suspended. Under the motions, there is a request to take one out of order. There is somebody registered to speak on Councilor Rita Mercier's motion concerning flood problems in the Rosemont Terrace area. Councilor Caulfield has also filed a motion on a similar topic, unresponsive motion. I would suggest we take that up at the same time.
Yes.
Is that appropriate? So on Councilor Rita Mercier's motion, it's a request the manager appoint a committee for flood problems in the Rosemont Terrace area. And Councilor Caulfield's motion is, I'm sorry, I didn't read the whole thing. The City Council requests the city manager appoint a committee to review and prepare a plan which would address flood problems in Rosemont Terrace area, as well as reviewing the 70-year-old emergency management plan presently in place, seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. And on Councilor Caulfield's unresponsive motion, the City Council requests the city manager contact the Army Corps of Engineers relative to inspecting the levee at Black Brook to find ways and means of preventing another flood.
And also, Mr. Mayor, I filed this motion in May.
Yes.
And it was left off, that motion, also the Pawtucket Boulevard. I included that.
Okay,
on that
Pawtucket Boulevard. So on the motion, Councilor Rita Mercier.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is someone registered to speak, and I think it's the rules that the person speaks first. I'd rather let him speak first. Paul Bellet.
Paul Bellet, 65 Alma Street.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Manager. Before I speak on Councilor Rita Mercier's motion, I'd like to, first of all, for the first time, I'd like to thank the City of Lowell for pulling all the stops out and providing all the services needed in cleaning up and still providing in the form of dumpsters during the rebuilding of our neighborhood. I'd also like to thank Keyspan and for letting their workers use their heavy equipment and trucks on their own time to help us clean up. Also thanks to TJ and his staff for helping us up on a daily and sometimes hourly basis. And the Red Cross for providing us with much needed dry clothes, tools, cleaning products. Salvation Army who set up soup kitchens to feed our neighbors, but also the many volunteers who came from across the city and surrounding towns to help us. We thank them. Also to the police and fire department who are always there. And thanks to Bud and Rita, Captain John, the Salvation Army, and their fundraising team. We thank you very much. And to all the businesses and people who donated so generously, we thank all of you very, very much. Thank you. In regards to the motion that I had Councilor Rita Mercier file, the reason we asked her to file this motion is to set in motion a fix for the flooding problems in Rosemont Terrace. For many of us, this is the second time in 20 years that we've had this problem. No one could have predicted the amount of rain that fell that week, but the fact is the plan to help us is a 70-year-old plan. And after the flood of 36, the Army Corps of Engineers put in place a wall in 41. At that time in Rosemont Terrace, there were 4 homes and a pig farm. But as the residents of Rosemont rebuild the homes, in many cases, the homes are going to be better homes. The residents want a peace of mind that their homes will be spared. And at both times, the flood started from the sewers, and the sewers squirted out about 2 feet out of the road and spread to the low-lying areas. The water department told me that the work that's going on around Rosemont is going to take care of that problem. But this time when it flooded, the brook did breach on New York Street, and on Martin Street through the bridge grate, so that created another problem. So the good news, though, as a neighborhood, we're going to be a little more prepared. We have street captains now. All the street captains have city department phone numbers, and the street captains and their neighbors will be monitoring the brook in case this occurs again. We also have 5,000 sandbags donated to us from a businessman from Worcester, Massachusetts. I know that's a Band-Aid for the problem, but at least we have a little fighting chance. But the best news of all came yesterday when I received a call from Congressman Marty Meehan's office telling me that a colonel from the Army Corps of Engineers will be down in our neighborhood on September 5th. And we understand that this cannot be done overnight, but it's good news to the neighbors, and it's a ray of hope. But I'm asking the council and the city to please help my neighbors and please help them have a peace of mind as they rebuild and make a better neighborhood. Thank you very, very much for your time. Thanks again.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are all aware of the devastation that has fallen on the residents who have been affected by the recent flooding. And although the magnitude of this flood may never be felt again, it is incumbent upon us to provide a plan that would be in place should the situation happen again, to whatever degree it happens. Therefore, I am, through this motion, asking you, Mr. Manager, to put together a committee comprised of long-term residents of the affected area, city engineers, interested parties, along with members of the Army Corps of Engineers who can carefully come up with a proposed plan that can improve and upgrade and make new a 70-year-old plan that's in place now. The plan is 70 years old. I think it should be upgraded. Maybe nothing can be done, but to bypass and say, gee, it might not happen again, this isn't what we're all about. I know the magnitude as to what took place there was devastating, and it's really something that we have to take a look at it anyways. And it is good news that Congressman Marty Meehan will review the levy plan on Tuesday, September 5th. Maybe he could be a part of the committee as well, but if we have a plan in place, a committee in place to review the whole thing, I think this is an afterthought as to what went on. Take a look at what happened and what can we do to make sure that we're better prepared should it happen again. Thank you. That's the gist of the motion.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, it was good news that we received from Congressman Meehan's office. I've been in contact with them. One of the first actions that I took when I assumed the position of city manager here was had an opportunity to travel a number of locations in the city with Councilor Caulfield, and he brought me down there as one of our first stops to show me the site and talk to me about the problem and the efforts that were underway with the Army Corps of Engineers. And I was able to work with Congressman Meehan's office, and they were very cooperative in setting up working to set something up with the Army Corps of Engineers. And as you've already indicated, there is a meeting scheduled for September 5th. So that is very good news. Hopefully we'll get some good response. With regards to the specific motion, I'll certainly look to put together a team of people that represents the city administration, the Army Corps, and some residents to sit down and have that discussion. Sure. I think that will be the most productive way to have those that dialogue between the residents and the Army Corps, and certainly the city will be there to ensure that there will be that dialogue taking place. The exact structure, I'll have to kind of work out how that will all take place. But I think you need to have, to make it be productive, I think it has to be some type of honest dialogue between all the parties.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Thank you. Okay. Councilor Caulfield, do you want to have anything to add?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Manager. The motion that's before you that I filed it 3 days after the flood to request the Army Corps of Engineers to come into our city and investigate the levee, not only at Beaver Brook, but also to investigate ways and means of preventing serious floods on Pawtucket Boulevard, Townsend Avenue, Melrose Avenue, Shirley Avenue, Varnum Avenue, Magnolia Street, There were many businesses over there that sustained serious damage, the bowling alleys, AAA, Dunkin' Donuts, many homes and businesses. The first floor condominiums on 353 to 355 Pawtucket Boulevard, they lost everything, everything. The devastation on Elmer Street, Lafayette Street, Rosemont Street, New York Street certainly was horrific. Captain Smith and I were down there with John Chimley, and we're talking to a resident, and John Chimley asked the gentleman, how much water did you get in your basement? And he said, I had 5 feet in my kitchen. So the devastation down there was tremendous. With the Salvation Army support, Captain Smith and many committee members, we were able to reach out to over 90 homes, and help them with hot water heaters, furnaces, wash machines, dryers, refrigerators, and stoves. I'm looking forward to working with you, Mr. Manager, and the Army Corps of Engineers. I will certainly be there on September 5th, but I would like to also take them not only in the Rosemont neighborhood, but in the neighborhood on Townsend Avenue, Melrose Avenue. They see that they received substantial losses as well. The water was right up to the first floor. So if there's ways and means of addressing this, let's roll up our sleeves and do so. I want to thank Congressman Meehan for making sure the Army Corps of Engineers, and I indicated to Paul Bellet, sometimes government works very slow, but sometimes they're very expedient as well. We do want to help you, Paul, your neighbors, the residents, in all the entire flooded areas. We do sincerely want to do that. And the Army Corps of Engineers is the way we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Any opposed? Motion's approved. Next motion is by Councilor Caulfield. Manager, City Council requests the city manager update the council on plans for sidewalk installation in the areas of Bailey and Daly schools. Seconded by Councilor Broderick. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, the Neighborhood Traffic Subcommittee convened a meeting early last spring to discuss the safety issues at the intersection of Campbell Drive, Westchester Street, Fleming Street, and I'll have to take you up there some morning, approximately 8 o'clock.
Number 2.
It's a nightmare. The crossing guard deserves a halo. There were many children, many parents bringing their children to school and so forth. And we had a meeting here in City Hall, and there had to be at least 65 to 70 residents here requesting some sidewalks. And they're duly needed, Mr. Manager, for the safety of the children. I know it's going to be an issue where, well, some people don't want a sidewalk, they don't have children. It's a safety issue. You have to just bite the bullet and make it happen, because the children are certainly our future, and their safety is very important.
Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, the Councilor Caulfield, just to give you an update on that, and again, this was something we had talked about a couple of times before, including that same day that we went out and looked at a few things in the city. We are moving forward with design of some sidewalks out there. There are some issues as to which is the appropriate side of the road to place these on, as well as issues regarding the actual property lines and the layout of the roadway. We're looking to do this project and to do it in a way too that ties in with the CSO project that Councilor Broderick has raised, that when we do the road work there are some drainage issues that need to be addressed. So I'm hopeful that design work is underway now. We're looking at some funding sources with the block grant program as well as Chapter 90, and I'm hopeful that we can move forward with this within the next, certainly not this construction season, but probably next construction season. And I'll file a more elaborate report.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion by Councilor Caulfield. The City Council requests the city manager have the proper department replace the light on Emery and 6th Ave, install light at Johnson Street in Pawtuckettville. Second by Councilor Rita Mercia. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I finally went up to Johnson Street and found out where they want this new light. I filed a motion 6 or 7 months ago. It's in a cul-de-sac at the end of Johnson Street. Johnson Street is off Varnum Avenue. And also, I received a request Monday if we can install a light on Broadway Street near the Francis Gate housing, near the variety store. So that's the only information I have for you, but the Housing Authority would certainly like to see a light there as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion is by Councilor Caulfield. City Council requests the neighborhood subcommittee meet with the city manager and various neighborhood groups to familiarize the manager with neighborhood issues. Seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In my communications with Manager Lynch, we both decided it'd be a good move to have a meeting with the neighborhood representatives and to address many issues, and to be a way for you, Mr. Manager, to meet these hardworking volunteers. There's one thing we have to address, and the neighborhood representatives can certainly help us out. We have to improve on our recycling. The recycling in the city is probably 25%. We have to improve that, and it will be a cost-saving measure as well. So Cal McCarthy, Nancy Judge, Anne Marie Page, I know I'm going to miss a few, Jerry Fischette, many others would be looking forward to this meeting, and we can set that up at your convenience.
Great. I appreciate that, Councilor.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion by Councilor Caulfield. City manager requests the city manager have law department draw the proper vote and proper department place a loading zone in front of Towers News on Gorham Street. Second by Councilor Rita Mercia. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you. I think the motion speaks for itself. The owner of that business was bringing supplies into the store and received a parking ticket and with no recourse. And the owner of the business indicated, would you give the Coca-Cola person a ticket? Would you give UPS and so forth? So we have to be flexible here. And if there was a 15-minute loading zone to allow for unloading of supplies, I think it would be great.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved.
Thank you.
Next motion is by Councilor Rita Mercier. City Council requests the city manager have the law department draw a proper vote for a 60-day trial for handicap parking sign in front of 30 Groves Avenue. Seconded by Councilor Broderick. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Yes, I believe it's 39 Groves Avenue.
Okay.
Do you have 30 or 39?
Well, it says 39 on the agenda and 30 on the motion.
Well, it's 39 then. It's 39. The person that I'm making this request for has assured me that she has sent the necessary paperwork to the clerk's office as proof of this request, and the clerk is shaking his head yes. So that's in essence the motion. Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion is by Councilor Rita Mercier. City Council requests the city manager have the law department draw a proper vote to name the corner of Farmland Road and Essex Street for the Metropolis Brothers. Seconded by Councilor Ramirez. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if you could spell the last word Mitropoulos for the record, OS. There was a change in the spelling, and I will elaborate further when it comes back under the manager's portion of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion is by Councilor Rita Mercier. City Council requests the city manager have the law department respond to the status of Heroes Uniform and Supply Company claim of January 8, 2006 regarding structural damage to the building. Seconded by Councilor Ramirez. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I assume we have all received a complete package of the incident that occurred on January 8th of this year, complete with documented correspondence between between his attorney and the city complete with photographs of the damage dated 8/3/06, as well as letters inquiring about the status dated January 11th, March 19th, July 11th, and July 28th, as well as the one we received on August 11th. So this motion is to ask you, Mr. Manager, to request the status from our law department as to when this issue will be resolved, if ever. I need a response, and so does the attorney who sent us this letter. I think, I'd like to think that we get back to people in a timely fashion. Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion by Councilor Rita Mercier, request request the city manager have the Division of Planning and Development explore the possibility and take necessary steps to entice a small grocery store to locate in the downtown area. Seconded by Councilor Milonazo. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The downtown is becoming quite an expanding neighborhood, and although there are new and exquisite places to eat, the fact remains that there are no stores that you can get your everyday regular staples like a loaf of bread or a dozen of eggs, but you must leave the downtown to venture out of there to get these goods. I had a number of residents in the downtown offer this suggestion to me that they are interested in having some type of a small grocery market downtown. I'm asking through this motion that it be referred to the planning department and see if they can be creative in making this happen. And I'd like to also add on to that, if there's no problem, the planning department plays a very crucial role in this city, and I'm still concerned about my previous motion before you got here, Mr. Manager, regarding Hannaford and the fact that it's gone and there's a very big empty void in that neighborhood area. And I'm also concerned about another empty void on Bridge Street. It used to be the old Ames department store. I think it's 38, Route 38. And I'm telling you, Mr. Manager, that I don't know why it's been sitting there so long vacant. Not that the planning department has a lot of time on their hands. They really don't. But, when you stop and think of these beautiful facilities that are empty and they could be used to bring something in there, I'm thinking of a Christmas tree shop or some darn thing. I'm sick of going all the way to Pelham, but wherever it may, Salem, I believe. But anyways, if we could see if they could be creative and try to open this up and bring businesses here. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Manager?
Just in response to the motion, I know that I have had discussions with Assistant Manager Coggins regarding this issue and talking to some of the property owners in the downtown area, and there are some efforts underway to try to recruit a grocery store to the downtown area, but certainly we will continue to follow up on that, and I'll have the planning department prepare a report on those efforts.
Sure, thank you.
Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to suggest, if the maker of the motion doesn't object, that maybe this will be a good opportunity with the study that was just done and obviously published in the paper of income and so on. I had the opportunity to walk through downtown today, and the sidewalks are a mess. I mean, there's some real work to be done. That it might be a good opportunity to have the manager through DPD, whoever, put together some type of strategic plan as to what we want to be downtown. I mean, there's a need from the poll to get some type of grocery store, but I think that we also have to decide what else we want to have, and part of that would be a plan for capital improvements in the sidewalks and things. Some of the buildings that have been redone, it looks tremendous out in front, but then others, we've put hot top over, the concrete, and it looks a little bit rough. So I thought, if you don't have any, Councilor Mercier,
Sure.
to amend the motion to ask the manager to come up with some type of strategic plan for downtown, the whole downtown area. Thank you.
Thank you. No objection to that amendment.
No, not at
Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you. I think it's a good motion and a good amendment to the motion. I think what we need to do is try to figure out what we want to be as a downtown. I know we're obviously an urban setting. We're a mid-sized city, and we provide certain services to people to come in via public transportation or their own means. But we really need to be able to have social service agencies coexist with retail in the downtown. Lately, I don't think that's happening, and I think that's partly why we have some of our storefronts that are vacant. And I think that part of the manager's task, working with the Downtown Neighborhood Association and with the subcommittee, is to come up with a plan that they can coexist. Because I think in cities like Lowell, you're going to have social service agencies in the downtown, but at the same time, you shouldn't have homeless people asleep on the sidewalk on Merrimack Street, which happened the other day that I mentioned at a meeting the manager and I were at, which is very unfortunate when you're trying to market your city to bring a grocery store to the downtown. As part of that planning process, I'd also, if we could, to see if the LRTA could weigh in and see if they could revisit their plan. Because, I mean, I drive through downtown now, and since the buses have been removed, I mean, it is a ghost town during parts of the day. And I think that you can come in on either side of that issue, whether or not the kids are good to be downtown or not good to be downtown. But I think it really does need to be revisited, because I do think that some of the closings did take place as a result of the kids not being downtown as often as they had been before. And then my only final comment is that the Downtown Venture Fund, which is administered through the LDFC and monies from the city, would certainly be interested in working with a developer or a mom and pop, for that matter, to open up a grocery store in the downtown, because it is something I think that the survey that we did receive indicated that there is a need for. So again, I would look forward to the report coming out of the city manager's office, and hopefully we can figure out the direction the downtown should be taking.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved as amended. Next motion is by Councilor Rita Mercier. City Council requests the city manager have the Board of Assessors provide a report on the status of the fiscal 07 assessments as to whether we are ahead, behind, or even with last year. Seconded by Councilor Broderick. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion is on the agenda asking that very question. Do we have the 2007 assessments set yet? And I believe we don't. What is the status of the fiscal year 07 assessments as to are we ahead of last year, behind, or right even with last year? And I don't think we're there. We're probably even, but the sooner the assessments are complete, the sooner we have it certified. And on a side note, and I hate to compare Lowell or Chelmsford, but I understand that Chelmsford's assessments are already done. So if we could get a reply from the city assessor, that would be fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, in response to the council, I will have the assessors prepare that report. I do not believe we're done yet. In fact, I know we're not done yet. We're still trying to finalize some of the new growth numbers. Mm-hmm. I guess my question would be, if I may, when you refer to whether we're behind or equal to where we were last year, are we talking about the total assessment of the city or the schedule of getting that work completed?
Well, probably both,
Okay.
to tell you the truth.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
And are we going to assess all the properties fairly, or you know what I'm saying? Or are they all going to be assessed at, let's say, all 90% of the assessment, at 90%, or some 75%, some 80%? I mean, I would like to know that as well.
We'll shoot for fairness.
Okay, let's do that. That'd be fine.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion by Councilor Rita Mercier. The City Council requests the city manager have the police department address car radio noise. Seconded by Councilor Ramirez. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Are you sick of this yet, or what? It's not easy, is it?
Having the time of my life.
Honest to God. Okay, good. This is a perennial problem, but one that needs to be addressed. I know that it's come up here so many times before, but the noise that comes from the car speakers as they travel through the neighborhoods leaves shivers down the spines of our residents as they jump out of their skin. And is it acceptable for people to have to close their windows to keep the noise out when it's such good weather? And I think not. I don't see that people should have to do that, but they are. So with this motion, it's very simple. I'm just asking through you, Mr. Mayor, to you, Mr. Manager, that to relay this message to the police department so they can take the appropriate action. I also want to know if they have tickets reflecting this noise violation. I want to know how many tickets were issued to to people who caused what I would refer to as noise pollution. So that's the gist of the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion is by Councilor Ramirez. City Council requests the city manager meet with the Council on Aging Director and the city librarian to discuss strategy to provide better access for senior citizens to the computer lab at the senior center. Seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. Councilor Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion's pretty straightforward. I had occasion to visit the senior center a number of times in the last month, and a number of the guests brought this to my attention, and when I met with the executive director, she said it was very important to her and to the guest. I had an opportunity to walk up to the second floor and see the schedule, and it looked to me like the computer lab was only open 6 times throughout the whole month, and I thought that we might be able to do better than that, so thank you, Mr. Manager.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, in response to Councilor Ramirez's motion, I happened to be over there recently myself, and it was an issue that we talked about with Lynn, the Council on Aging Director, and I'm happy to report that there already has been some dialogue, and in large part in response to your raising this issue, we've brought the two parties together, and they've worked out some plans that I'll be preparing a report that I'll submit to the council that will address this issue.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion is by Councilor Elliott. Request the City Council adopt recently passed legislation increasing the veterans exemption allowance for widows of spouses who died in the Iraq-Afghanistan war from property taxes for 5 years and a $2,500 a year exemption thereafter. Seconded by Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Elliott.
Mayor, the motion that you just read speaks for itself. I know a couple of weeks ago we had, maybe it was more than a couple of weeks ago, 2 meetings ago, we were sort of behind on adopting a bill for veterans that would provide them additional compensation. And rather than face that again, the governor just recently signed this bill, I think it was a little over 2 weeks ago, around 2 weeks, to help widows, as the motion mentioned. So just wanted to bring it forward and give these widows whatever assistance that we possibly can that apply to the city. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion is by Councilor Elliott. The City Council requests the mayor and city manager reconvene the Asian Task Force to meet with Asian community leaders and city leaders regarding recent crime-related problems. Seconded by Councilor Ramirez. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You and I filed the same motion. I think the motion does speak for itself. I'd like to elaborate just a little bit because I know that we had the Southeast Asian Task Force meet with communities leaders. I don't know when it has met since. I think it's important that we have the mayor and manager reconvene to address the escalating issues in that particular community. I'm not trying to go through any profiling. We're not trying to pick on any particular group, but that's where the issues are stemming from. And I'd also like to include, Mr. Mayor, if it's okay to amend my own motion, that the businesses in the Asian community are also involved and invited. We need their input. I mean, again, another incident at the New Paradise restaurant or bar or whatever it is again. So I think we need to, get back on it, get the community leaders involved, businesses, and as the police department and administration. I'm not saying that all the problems are related to, to the Southeast Asian community, but there does seem to be that's where the issues are rising, and we need to get the leaders and the parents and anyone else involved to address this. I hear on a regular basis people are very concerned with the escalating violence in the city, and we need to take a strong approach, and that requires involvement. So, not going to belabor the issue. I think we all know what the issues are. We need to address it and get people involved to to stop this, sort of systemic violence in our neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Mayor?
I know the manager has taken some steps already in this regard. I don't know if you want to comment on those, Mr. Manager, or you want to prefer to wait until next meeting?
Mr. Mayor, if I, just a brief comment, and then we'll certainly work to move forward with the motion, if so voted. But there is just pretty much an announcement, and as all the councilors know, and they've been notified of this as well, that the fourth and final gang summit, one of the issues certainly that we're dealing with is the gang violence at various times, that there is a meeting that's taking place on the 29th of this month from 8 to 12 noon at Middlesex Community College at the Federal Building. And we're certainly encouraging people to come and participate in that. And that's certainly one action that we're taking through the police department and their efforts, as well as focusing many of our law enforcement efforts on this particular problem. I think the idea of reconvening the task force is an important step in that process as well.
Thank you, Councilor. I think there were representatives from the District Attorney's Office originally involved in this task force, and I think they've been in touch recently and expressed some interest in doing that, so I think that's something we'll be able to do. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion is by Councilor Elliott. City Council requests the manager report on policies regarding park use, including permit issuance and user fees. Seconded by Councilor Broderick. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. The city spends an awful lot of money. We've invested an awful lot of money, and our parks get used quite a bit. But I filed this motion because a couple of weeks ago, a permit was issued for a basketball at one of our parks, one of the city parks, for a basketball tournament. And Monday morning, the Father Maguire Park was an absolute disgrace. And it seems to be sort of a regular occurrence in a lot of our parks that that our parks are used and they're abused and they're not taken care of. I don't know exactly what we should do, but we need to take some actions, because I don't think it's fair, nor is it right, for the people in the Parks Department or DPW to spend their Monday morning, or any time for that matter during the week, picking up trash and cleaning up the park. That's not their role. Their role is to do other things. It's not just to be garbage collectors. So I don't know, in addition, the city put an awful lot of money into Father Maguire Park just a short time ago with new basketball hoops. They resurfaced it. One of the hoops was hanging off by an inch. Those are brand new hoops. So I think we need to have either a larger deposit, a higher fee, or some security that if you don't clean the park, if you're not going to take care of it, if there's any destruction or abuse in the park, you're going to lose your deposit. And I don't know what that dollar figure is. We don't want to prohibit organizations from not being able to use the park, but when they use it, they need to respect it and to take care of it and leave it in the condition that they found it. So that's the motion. I know I filed this motion prior to this to look at fees. Again, we've invested an awful lot of money into these parks, and they need to be taken care of. And whatever that fee is to use from, and this group is not from Lowell, by the way, and that's a little disparaging. Maybe some of the groups that participated in the tournament were from Lowell, but in large part, the people that came to me said most of these people were not from the city. I don't think that's right either. So I don't know what the policy is, but the motion is to look at park use, the permit, who's it issued to, who's using it, and fees, and make sure that they, maybe we have to get a larger security deposit to make sure that, they'll get it back as long as they, if they don't clean it, then we're going to pay the parks people and use that money for it. So I'm belaboring the point. I don't mean to. Just wanted to, it's frustrating. So thank you, Mayor and Mr. Manager.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield.
Mr. Mayor, in the same vein, as long as we're discussing parks, Mr. Manager, I plan on bringing a motion forward. We have many Little League organizations throughout the city, and there's an ordinance forbidding them to hang a sign on the fence and this revenue that they can garner through this issue. So I'll be bringing a motion in to see if the law department can come up and amend the ordinance to allow the youth organizations to utilize the fencing for ways and means of raising funds. So.
Counselor, I think that may be part of the subject matter of the ordinance that was referred to the planning board this evening. I know it's supposed to address signs, and perhaps this issue can be addressed once and for all in that process.
I have received a few phone calls, and you know, it's hard to keep the finances going, and many of these organizations say, when are we going to bring this forward? So
I think we're all sympathetic to the
Very vital.
leagues in this situation. It's a matter of getting the ordinance to catch up with what we all want to see happen, and I think it's underway. It's moved more slowly, I think, than any of us would have expected, but I think it is in process, Mr. Manager, just for your information. Councilor Elliott did have a motion that was inadvertently omitted from the agenda. If we could entertain a motion to suspend the rules for a motion to address issues on Parker Street. So moved by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Caulfield. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The rules are suspended. Next motion is by Councilor Elliott. The City Council requests the City Manager have the proper department address the building and health conditions at 139, 141 Parker Street. Seconded by Councilor Broderick. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we all received the emails and communications on this particular piece of property. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, I believe that you were on that list as well, and the neighbors they're upset on the condition of the property. It's been sitting there for quite some time, so I filed the motion to have you and city departments address the building, health, you know, other issues that are affecting that neighborhood. So that's the motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you. Actually, once again, it's in the same vein. Through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, on Liberty Street, Pine Street, it seems that people are just putting everything that they don't want out on the sidewalk. There were 4 mattresses at the corner of Stephen and Pine Street, the major thoroughfare right into our city. And people are just putting stuff out on the sidewalk and, you know, bless it to the wind. And I'd like to see a stop to that. It's getting out of hand.
Thank you. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, one of the issues that I believe we talked about at our the last meeting was the issue of how to reduce some of our solid waste costs. And in fact, this is an issue that sort of ties in with that we are investigating, of looking at what actions can be taken to cut down on the amount of trash that people are putting out, and then having it just be placed out on the sidewalk. We are concerned that perhaps some of the property owners that don't necessarily live in the city but have properties are utilizing their address in the city the property in the city to dispose of some of their solid waste from elsewhere. So it's an issue that we are looking at, and we will follow up on that, as well as the particular property that Councilor Elliott has raised.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion is by Councilors Elliott and Broderick. The City Council requests the City Auditor and representatives of Powers and Sullivan meet with the Finance Subcommittee and Auditor Oversight Subcommittee on fiscal 2005 audit issues. Councilor Broderick.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It basically speaks for itself. It obviously came to our attention that the fiscal year 05 budget, the audit was just completed recently, and it was obviously a concern for both of us. We filed a joint motion, as I'm sure it is for the rest of the councilors. And basically just to get an explanation as why, what happened following the, not to belabor issues that were brought up earlier, but issues with the setting the tax rate last year. Just want to see what was the explanation, what was the problem, and make sure it doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott, you have anything to add?
I think Councilor Broderick really hit the nail on the head, but I would like to ask the auditor, Mr. Auditor, why was the audit just complete for 05? What was holding it up? I mean,
Mr. Auditor?
At what time did the city receive the draft letter?
The audit was completed. What was hanging it up was the GASB 34 portion of the audit.
Okay, when
Fixed
did you get the draft letter?
I got the draft letter, maybe a couple of months ago.
Okay. right, well, we'll look forward to discussing this at the subcommittee audit oversight. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion is by Councilor Broderick. The City Council requests the city auditor to report to the Gloucester School Building Subcommittee on the $1 million additional bond to replace missing 3 classrooms and where the remaining $710,000 is currently. Seconded by Councilor Elliott. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, the motion speaks for itself. Essentially, this has been in subcommittee, and we had a meeting scheduled, but the city solicitor was on vacation, so we had to postpone it, and Councilor Donahue was obviously not with us right now. But essentially, Mr. Auditor, if you could let us know, I don't know if it's an easy question or a short answer, but we bonded, I think in September of '04 for another $1 million. In my understanding, I wasn't here on the council, was that was to put the 3 classrooms back, and we settled it for $290,000. And to me, the math says we should have $710,000 extra. It doesn't look like in the documents that we've gone over, the spreadsheets and reports, that that's the case. So I didn't know if we spent $1.29 million, or how does that work out?
Mr. Auditor?
The total $1 million was put in the coffers of the $24 million project. It was 23, and when they added another $1 million, made it 24. The individual portion of that was put into unobligated at the time, and that's where the $290,000 came out of, was the unobligated portion of the budget. Whereas $700,000, I'd have to go back and do a quick analysis of the whatever's left and how much was spent and where it came from. That's all I can give you.
Okay, if you could do that, I guess we could take a look at that, because in going through the numbers, it didn't make sense. We've been asking about the 290, and then kind of dawned on me, we're missing 710.
I can see that.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. The next motion is by Councilor Broderick. The City Council requests the City Manager report on the progress status of the CSO project. Seconded by Councilor Ramirez. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, this is, as a lot of the stuff that's been thrown at you is a big project, and I'm sure it'll take some time to get up to speed, but I did a little bit of background work on it, and I had some questions that I thought, rather than just saying, can you report on it, maybe you could address as you get to it. I know you've got some financial issues here. We had, by background and history, we had a phase 1 that was complete in the that dealt with the Merrimack River, and was like approximately a 48% abatement of the overflow issue. But it was also my understanding that some of that money was used for odor control out of the plant. For they replaced, I believe there was a Zempro or an Empro system that was replaced back in '01 or '02. So we're talking 4 or 5 years ago. And I live over there. I never noticed a difference in the odor. So I don't know if it just never properly working. We don't have the staffing that was trained to use it, or if there's malfunction in the equipment. So that would be the first one, because as Councilor Caulfield pointed out earlier, we've been talking about this one-time windfall from Tewksbury and Drake. If this odor problem should have been taken care of, maybe there's another means of doing it rather than spending our own money right now. But if you could please check on that. And then the other issue, which predates me also by quite a bit, and I know Mayor Martin made a motion when he was a councilor relative to phase 2. I believe CDM has been contracted for $1 million and change to come back with a design in, I believe it's March of '07. And their design calls for about a $60 million expenditure, which we're going to have to go out and bond and pay for. In some of the, going back to some old news clippings and things, is that Metcalf and Eddy did a similar project for Nashua. Took them from $121 million down to $38 million using these retentions. And I know former Councilor Howe was very much into this. I think he was on the CSO committee. I think Councilor Caulfield is the chairman now. And to me, it sounds like if they can reduce Nashua down to 31% of the original quote, it would at least be worth talking to CDM to find out why aren't they using the same retention method? Why are we going with a complete separation, which is going to cost us, maybe as opposed to $18 million, we're going to spend 60. I think that under the circumstances with the budget, I think we at least ought to look at it and because I think there was something from the Army Corps of Engineers that said that that's not the most efficient way to go. Mm-hmm. It's 8 times more efficient to use a retention. Now, I don't know if there was engineering reasons, but I think it's at least worth looking at in terms of before we contract and start bonding the $60 million and see if there's a way to save. That's significant money. That's that maybe we can look at saving. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the chairman of that subcommittee, Mr. Manager, I will convene a meeting and ask for the proper employees to be present to offer their views. First of all, the reason that the subcommittee, Councilor Armin Mercier and I think rejected retention as in Nashua, I don't want a retention pillar or tower retaining sewerage in our city. I want to alleviate it. If Nashua wants to do that, that's fine. But where would you put it? In my backyard? Whose backyard? Where would it go? That's one of the reasons we rejected that. And I believe that the CSO is already underway. I brought you in Pawtuckaville, Emory Ave, Spark Street, 6th Street, 6th Ave. So that whole neighborhood, CSO is underway right now, and they're installing larger drainage pipes and so forth.
Thank you. Well, Councilor Broderick, and then we'll hear from the manager.
Thank you. My understanding of the retention system is that it's underground. I wasn't aware that they were talking about, putting up sewage tanks up in the, like water tanks. My understanding that it would be underground retention with basically gates to open. And all it does is it stores more of the water. It would make the river cleaner because our overflow would now be going through the plant as opposed to just dumped out into the river, which we know there's dead animals and so on. So it's not just a matter of saving money. It definitely is saving money. But it's also a matter of complete sanitation and cleaning up the river. And I think I don't know. That's the first I heard of having towers. I would have a hard time with that as well. But my understanding is that these are retention that are built underground. I don't think anyone's going to want a sewerage overflow tower in their neighborhood, and I wouldn't support that either.
Okay. Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, the request was for a report on progress. I don't know about tanks. What I do know is that there's a plan in place. There's a sewer separation plan that has been approved by EPA, and it doesn't include any tanks, so whether we are going to change for phase 2 or not, but I'd like to get an update on where we are, also from a financial perspective, because I noticed in the financial notes, where are we with the project, and where are we going out, where are we with going long-term notes? It was a $65 million authorization, I believe. We have begun some work on the project, but I don't know where we're at, and if we can get an update where we're at and what impact that's going to have on the sewer enterprise fund. Just one quick question through you, Mr. Mayor, to the auditor. Mr. Auditor, on page 20 of this report that we just got this evening, it said net cash from operating activities, $2.3 million. Is that just on this annual basis, or is that the current balance in that proprietary fund?
Could you repeat that?
We're looking to get an update this motion for the CSO, and one of my concerns, I asked the manager where are we with the project, and when are we going out for long-term notes, because I'm looking at how are we going to pay for it. And under the on page 20 of the financial notes from the audit that we just got this evening, it says net cash from operating activities. Is that just on an annual basis, 2.3 million, and is all of the debt coming specifically, I'm presuming it's coming specifically from this proprietary fund to the tune of $6 million. That's why the rates were raised, specifically for that. So when we hear, there's a big old surplus in there, the debt has not come online, and that's where we're paying for it, out of this fund, not the general fund.
That's correct.
Okay, so it says 2.3 million. Is that the existing balance in there? Is that just, that's what these financial notes say. I heard some other numbers tonight.
That's for the, that would probably be for the current year in '05.
In '05?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Manager, you want to comment?
Mr. Mayor, just a brief response to Councilor Broderick's motion that I will prepare that report. I've already spoke to Mark Young about that, and he's drafting up a report. We already are moving forward with Phase 1, and that's coming close to wrapping up to a large extent. And we are looking at, as I indicated earlier tonight, preparing ourselves out in some other neighborhoods as we do road work to lay the lines so that we can implement that moving forward. But certainly, in fact, I had a similar question for him regarding the issue of alternative means of dealing with this problem, because it is a very expensive one. What we're hoping to do is finish Phase 1 and then sit down with EPA and start looking at alternatives to do Phase 2 or the means to do Phase 2, and also working with neighboring communities, specifically Drake, which does have some combined that flow into our system as well. But we will have that report. I'll work with Councilor Caulfield on setting up a meeting of the subcommittee, and we'll get that to the entire council, though, because it is, as you point out, it's a huge exposure to the city that we have to deal with in terms of controlling those costs, and it would be funded, I would say, entirely through the enterprise, but obviously there are rates that are tied in with that enterprise as well that we have to be cautious and concerned about.
Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion is by Councilor Armin Mercier. The City Council requests the City Manager meet with the National Park Department to begin discussions on renovation of Lucy Larkham Park. Seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. Councilor Armin Mercier.
I know it's late in the evening. I'll be very brief. There are a number of issues that bother me about the condition of the Lucy Larkham Park. A jewel right in the middle of the city and right in the heart of the National Park. It should not be in the condition it's in. We could elaborate a little bit on why it's in that condition. First of all, there are cars that are still going in and out of there. That's prohibitive. There are people that are parking aside of the Aiken Daycare Center, and when they exit, many times they exit right out of the park. They shouldn't be. The police, I think, should be patrolling it more often. I was walking there the other day, and there were a couple of SUVs parked on the grass up against the high school, clearly prohibitive. But more importantly, we need to renovate it, and I think that the reason I'm including the National Park is not only because it's in there, but I think the National Park has an ability to tap some federal funds to apply for park purposes. For instance, Marty Meehan, I think, had a set aside of $7 million to extend the walkway, the river walkway, and it hasn't moved yet. And so maybe we can divert, I'd have the National Park request Marty Meehan to divert some of the funds to repair and restore and make that park the park that it's supposed to be. And once that's done, then we got to put a plan in place to maintain it, to have the abutters, which is the high school and also the church, which does an awful lot to take care of their property, and the Aiken Daycare Center to maintain the property, and to have the police be more vigilant on people who use that in a way that's prohibitive. It's a jewel. It should be looked at, and I'm hopeful that once you meet with the National Park Service, they could probably find a way of finding money in the Park Service budget to renovate it. Every single areas of cement is either chewed up, busted, broke. In fact, I don't even think you could put a wheelchair down there without it getting stopped. So I think it needs to be addressed. That it is not only downtown and part of the downtown problem, but it's also a gem right in the heart of the National Park. People use it all the time, and it is right now in deplorable condition. One only has to walk along the park and see how bad it is. So if we could pay attention to that and see if we can get some federal dollars to straighten that problem out.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On a side note concerning Lucy Larkham Park, and yes, you're right, Councilor Mercier, that is a jewel, and it shouldn't be left in disarray. But I received a call from a person thinking that that was my motion, and I told him that it was yours. I received a call from Jay Gaffney, and he informed me that some time ago there was a bell that was uncovered to be used as a planter, but it had more significant value than that. And there are people who removed this bell, and they're in the process of cleaning and restoring this bell to its brilliance. They are contemplating moving it to a permanent home on the grounds of Lucy Larkham Park, for this bell was used to sound the start of work at the mills, and it has significant historic meaning. They have an article in progress that they're working on this about this bell, and I suggested that they send it to each of us so that we can get more knowledge on this bell. And Lucy Larkham Park seems to be its home, and it would be fitting if it was set in a more pristine environment such as what it is today. So that's a great motion, and thank you very much.
I would like to just add that a very concerned constituent of mine has been harping on this for quite a while, has an affinity for Lucy Larkham's legacy, and it's just deplorable the way that park is. And I just assured her that I would bring this to the attention of the city manager and see if we could do something about it, because it clearly needs to be taken care of. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Milanazzo?
No, go ahead, Mayor.
Well, I just want to add, I got a similar call from people that are working with Mr. Gaffney on this project, and other groups have a interest in this, the Flowering City, and things. So, Mr. Manager, we'll make that information available to you as part of the report, but it may be a good opportunity to build on some work that's already begun there, and partner with some other groups in the city.
Mr. Mayor, I have been in touch with Mr. Gaffney as well regarding the Bell project, and it's very interesting project that they're working on, very much to be commended, and I'd be interested in any other background information, and I am going to be meeting with Congressman Meehan and some of his staff people, as well as other city officials regarding the walkway, and we are anxious to move that forward, at least to the Cox Bridge and hopefully beyond. But we'll look for other sources of funds to work on this park, because it is certainly an important property in the city.
Thank you. Councilor Milanazzo?
I'm all set.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion under unanswered by Councilor Broderick. The City Council requests the city manager invite local, state, and federal delegations to meet and possibly tour the Hamilton Canal District. Seconded by Councilor Elliott. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, it speaks for itself. I made the motion in February. Probably wasn't good timing as far as taking a tour. A little cold, but on a serious note, it basically to get the state and federal delegation on the site, review the plans, and kind of get them invested personally. I know Marty Mean in discussion is offered his help, and I think would like to get involved and could probably offer some real assistance through the federal transportation money in terms of some type of access from the mass transit across the street to the proposed development. And also, I noticed that he got Haverly the $6 or $7 million for a garage. Mr. Manager, if you could maybe have someone take a look and see how Haverhill did that. But again, I think it's transportation money, and it probably is located within a certain proximity with the mass transit, which means that it's something we should probably look at now in terms of location. I mean, I think fortunately the other garage is at the opposite end, so if we are going to need another garage, it would make sense maybe to start working with his staff to see what they can do and how to go about it, because it's going to take some time to get the funds, and I think maybe if we start now, we can get in line to help out, so we're not bonding another garage. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Milanazzo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a good motion, and I think that based upon the fact that we are now in the middle of reviewing proposals from developers, both regional and national developers, for the Hamilton Canal, it's a very timely motion as well. Councilor Ramirez and myself, along with members of the federal and state delegation, did participate in a meeting up at the university, and we were able to convince the university to actually include the Hamilton Canal site as one of 4 sites to be looked at now for the Nanotechnology Center. So again, I think there's promise in that route as well, and I think that by having the local, state, federal delegation tour the Hamilton Canal site, I think it may actually move that project forward as well. And we have to remember, as Senator Panagiotakis stated, that the $35 million that came for the Nanotechnology Center did come from an economic stimulus package, meaning to create jobs and create commercial development as a result of that nano center. And if we can get that nano center to locate at the Hamilton Canal site, I think it would be a certainly a good economic boost for the downtown. So I think the motion's timely.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Mr. Mayor, just before we adjourn, I'd just like to bring up one issue that I couldn't.
All right, we'll vote that motion.
Yes,
All those in
okay.
favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion's approved. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended a beautiful cookout Saturday evening at Father Norton Manor with Council Rita Mercier, and the residents at Father Norton Manor indicated that the speeding on High Street, Mr. Manager, is excessive. And there's a crosswalk there that they'd like to see painted as well. But they really stress the speeding. It's almost out of control. So I'd like to have that addressed. Thank you.
Okay, motion to adjourn by Councilor Armin Mercier, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Meeting stands adjourned.